2024 Southampton Town Planning Board meeting. We'll call the meeting to order and have a roll call, please.
Chair LaFaro.
Present.
Vice Chair Finnerty is absent. The Secretary is here. Board Member Fulham.
Present.
Board Member Neely.
Present.
Board Member Mutu.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Can you please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have any minutes?
Yes, we have the minutes from June the 13th.
June 13th. Motion to approve? Motion by Kate, second by Tom. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, so we have how many of us?
Five.
Five
Five
of
of
us,
us.
5 in favor, 1 absent. Okay, we're going to close the session this afternoon and go into a work session. And so our first is North Edge Stables, LLC. Come on up to the table, Prema. Hey, how are you doing?
Hey, Wayne.
Anyway,
I'm dying. I have. Should I get the end?
Oh, thank you.
This is the,
Wait.
So you want me to introduce everybody?
Yes, please, Wayne.
Okay, so before I get into the property description, we're here on an application for a new horse farm. North Edge Stables 2 LLC. Principal Gabby Morris is here. And our designer construction company, Ellie Zimmerman, as well as Joe Lombardo from the Rayner Group, who is doing the survey and engineering work with Joe, and as well as Ed Burke, one of
Thank
our
you.
other consultant attorneys. What we're handing you are some design elements that accompany the project.
Okay, just speak up, everyone, so that we can capture it on the mics and the people in the room can hear us, okay?
And probably the first thing is
Prema, did you want to say anything before?
no, I was just going to introduce it, that it was the,
Go ahead.
Okay.
on the corner of Lumber Lane and Skull Hole. It's the acquisition created by the Community Division from 2002.
And
This is the microphone right there, so this, yeah.
And they're proposing a horse stabling facility. The land allows for up to 35 horses, but they're proposing 26 stalls. Thank you.
So, I'll give you a little more details. The property is on the southeast corner of Lumber Lane and Scuttle Hole Road. The planning board considered this property many years ago as part of the Taterfield subdivision. The northern part, which consists of most of this, all of this property, was part of an ag reserve where the development rights were sold to the town of Southampton. So there's a development right easement on this. If you recall, and there was 4 lots to the south. The property had an L-shaped configuration, and you may recall a few years ago, Channing Daughters Winery approached the board, as well as Stephen Klein, the then owner, and they did a transfer where that L-shaped portion was given to Channing so they could do continue part of their vineyard as well as build a warehouse associated with the winery close to the winery building. That being said, that left us a little less than 30-acre portion, rectangular in shape, 29.976 acres, all subject to the development rights easement, which expressly provides for equestrian activities as well as housing for agricultural labor. Of course, subject to your review, subject to site plan and special exception. We're here, we had submitted a pre-submission. We are before you tonight for that pre-submission conference. You asked for a work session to help get a little more familiar with the project. What I'll let you do, we did do a calculation, as the staff had indicated, based on the project and what available land was left available. Our maximum horses allowed would be 35. We're only proposing 26. And based on that, I'll let Gabby try to take her concept. This is sort of her dream. She has a background in horse and equestrian activities. So.
Yes. Do you want me to walk you guys through? Is that helpful?
Sure.
Okay, amazing. So like Wayne said, my passion since I was 4 years old was horseback riding. And my family and I have been coming out to the Hamptons every summer since I was little, and my dream is to have a property out here where I can do that. So we found this piece, which is an amazing, beautiful piece. We're proposing that the main entry be right here on Lumber Lane. You drive through, and straight ahead of you will be the 26 stall barn. On the side is your outdoor arena, and then across the way you see the garage for storage. And then over here is the horse walker, and then across is the indoor arena, so we can ride in the bad weather and the cold. And then over here is just an open grass field that we can ride on. And in the back, you'll see all these paddocks where horses basically just stay out and eat grass. And then this is the winery right here. And then there's a separate entrance for the groom's housing. And that will also be the service entrance to get the manure and garbage as well. And then you have the open land, so you saw that viewpoint coming from Scuttle. And that's pretty much the site.
Do you plan to have any kind of equestrian events here?
No,
No,
private
this is-
only. I'm a very private, yeah.
It's a private horse farm.
Yes, just for me and my horses and my dog.
And you'll have 30, no, you're allowed
20
35, you're going to
Yes.
have 26 horses.
That's correct.
And have you configured the site so that there's sufficient circulation for some of these horse trailers to come?
Yes, so the horse shows will all come either through here, and you can go right through this entry as well because it's 16 foot wide. So you can go all the way around, or you can come through here as well. You can also park in this garage when you're not using them, which is helpful. So there's really several areas you can put them in. You can get through with all of these different roadways since they're 16 foot wide.
And are those parking spaces that are?
Yes, this is for the housing.
And these are for
The stable, yeah.
stables.
And do we have a requirement for the parking number?
We don't. Previously, the board has done one parking space per stall. It looks like the calculations, I mean, we have something in the code for the housing, and that's sufficient, but the question becomes if we do it per stall, how many employees then there might be. There's, I think, 5 are shown for the garage and 23, if I'm not mistaken, in the main code.
So 23 parking spaces in the center.
And then 18 on the ag housing.
Where is the housing on here?
So the housing,
Right.
housing is on the northerly side. So what you have is 2 buildings, each with 4 units. They did them individually. There's approximately 2 bedrooms in each. As far as number of employees, there's going to be 1 farm manager, 24/7 on the property. There'll be 9 grooms approximately for the 26 horses, 1 property manager and 1 groundskeeper. So they planned for 12, and even though there's a couple extra beds, most of the employees they find in this industry also have spouses, so there's space to accommodate those.
2, 4, 6, so it's 8 and 8, 16,
Yes.
16 people.
And what about septic?
Yeah.
And water, and
It'll be standard IA system. Joe can elaborate on that. As far as manure waste, that's going to be provided, and they're working on finding the appropriate service to take it away daily. So.
I assume you have not gone to the health department yet, or have you?
No, this is pre-submission on your
Okay.
part. So one of the other elements I forgot to tell you is during the Taterfield subdivision, when they sold the property to Stephen Klein, realizing Mr. Klein is also an equestrian, as you notice, if you've been past the property, there's a paddock fence and it's been used by horses, was that they wanted no buildings or structures other than fencing within the southerly 500 feet from the lots that they were developing. So that's why you see the open field or be used. It's necessary open pasture. That's why you see this oriented more in this location.
So that was a covenant or something like,
It's a private covenant, not that you're bound by it, but we're bound by it. So, but it's part of our design element. We feel that's appropriate for this property and its location. Joe,
So-
maybe you can talk to, did you do a parking calculation?
No, we actually didn't, only because I don't believe that there is a calculation you can do for horse farms.
Right. So there's nothing yet, but we'll
Nothing yet,
make
but you'll
sure
work
and we'll
on,
look
you'll
at
work on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so one of the questions that I have, because the town has bought the development rights, are the restrictions that go with that? And I remember because we had a similar application not too far away of moving earth, of changing the configuration of the soils, et cetera. Do you have any plans to do that, or are you aware of those restrictions?
So the restrictions say you can't do it unless it's approved by
Yeah,
this board.
right.
So that's the key element, and I think other than what will be necessary to design this, Joe, right, is that, you know, there's a certain flow to this property, and I think that we're not here to do major changes to do anything like that. But one of the elements that were included and we're working on a landscape plan would be some hedging along the northerly side, so it will sort of help soften the view of buildings from Scuttle.
Because we had a situation where, and I don't know if people on the board remember this, but that there was a desire to reform the land to protect the horses from noise, because it would spook the horses.
Yeah. So,
So, I mean, there was a lot of controversy about it. So that's why I'm asking in the work session up front, how you feel about that, you know?
Well, I think part of the element here, first and foremost, is it's important in the roads and the highways. So there was, you see, there's no paddock areas designed near the roads. So they are mostly away from that. So that is something I explained to Gabby before, and they
Yeah.
took it into account and tried to accommodate that.
Fallen off one too many times from noises, so that's why I moved the outdoor arena to what I believe is the quieter part of the property over here, away from the road.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully that'll be safe for me and my horses. And that's why we kind of kept this all open, because this is the noisiest road over there. And then if you guys flip through, you'll see colored elevations and renderings. And then I did bring some material samples as well, if you guys want to see of the stone, the roof.
Building is lovely.
Thank you.
Is it all the fire safety standards incorporated into it?
Yes.
Will be.
Yeah.
Will be.
Yes. I mean, that will happen probably in construction drawings. These are just conceptual,
Mm-hmm.
but certainly like the safety for horses.
So gray, black, and white.
Yeah, so this is the metal roof. You'll see that I have the shingles on most of the farm. And then this is the siding, and then just the blue accent for the doors and garages. So you can see it in the renderings
Yep.
where those
Quite nice.
materials come in. If you want me to grab you the stone over there, I can as well.
where you're proposing is to have your manure stored. It's not clearly showing.
The manure.
Yeah.
It's right here. So that's with the service entrance. So come in, pick it up, and you drive right out.
And the paddock location close to the winery operation. I'm not
Yes.
familiar with what happened to the winery operation here, but there's not going to be any conflict with the winery.
No, I already spoke to them, and I told them the paddocks were going there, and they were very happy about that. So it's a nice view for the people drinking wine.
People are not going to get rowdy and scare the horses when
Hopefully
they're
not. Fingers crossed.
So, you said you anticipate 12 employees. Is that?
Yeah,
Is
at
that-
least right now.
I was kind of wondering how you get to that calculation based
Sure.
on the number of.
Yeah. So
Horses or-
how we typically have done it is one groom can handle about 3 horses each. So when you do that calculation, it's about 9. And then, like Wayne described before, you need a few managers to keep the grounds looking nice, and a farm manager as well, just to keep the day-to-day logistics going. So that's
is
how we
this-
equate to the
Is
12.
it seasonal? I mean, do the horses go south in the winter? And
So the show horses would go
Okay.
south in the winter, and depending, how many we want to leave behind, some might stay back, depending on injuries.
So the staff housing will expand and contract according to how many
the
horses you
season,
have.
probably. Yeah.
And what's the season?
We typically leave for Florida in November, and we come back depending on around April 1st through 15th.
So these are riding horses, not polo horses,
No, equestrian, jumping.
jumping.
And individual clients, you're working with individual clients who own the horses? Or
No,
they're
it's
all-
personal for
they're
me.
all for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're all yours.
Well, hopefully one day I'll be getting some more. But yes, for right now I'll just be putting my horses here, and then hopefully breeding and training. So
Okay.
it's not my it's not my job. This is a hobby, so it's just my fun.
No, but there can be room for other clients to have a horse.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That.
If I bring a
Okay.
trainer in to help me, they might have some
Right.
too. So it's accounting for that as well.
And so I guess you're permitted up to 35, but you've designed it for 26.
26.
What happens? I'm just throwing it out there. What if you say? Well, I'd like to go up to the 35.
We have to come back
Or-
to you. The
Right.
first thing would be they'd have to find additional paddock space
Right.
indoor, because there's only 26 stalls.
Right. Right. So,
Well, since we're at the preliminary stage, I want to put a word in for environmental stuff. Solar, electric charging stations, anything else that you can do to take some of the load off of how much we affect
Yeah.
our land here.
To be honest, barns don't take up that much electric, and you can speak to that.
Yeah, but
There's
you've
not
also,
much.
you've got people living there.
Yeah, I mean, we could definitely look at possibly doing solar on the housing, but again, really for the barn, the indoor certainly doesn't take much electric. Outdoor, obviously, is outdoor arena, so you don't need any electric there. So I would say we can definitely take a look at it for the housing
Right,
areas.
Because you could have solar on the
Yeah.
barn that is feeding
Yeah,
into
for sure.
to the grid for the housing.
We haven't gotten that far in yet,
Yeah, well, that's,
but
I'm just.
we can
that-
definitely look into
I'm
it for sure. I'll
putting-
make a note
putting
of
that
that.
little
Yeah.
nugget in your planning.
Well, and heating in the off season when you're probably heat and cool the indoor arena, which takes a lot of energy.
I'm not sure if we're gonna heat it yet. I have to look at costs once he prices out for us. Definitely won't heat the barn. Obviously, the bathrooms and stuff, you'll want to get some heat in there. But
Most times the heat is radiant in floor, which is very efficient.
Right. Okay.
So it's not like we have hot air.
But that's
Furnaces,
also
right.
electric, which
What was
that would be the radiant heating in the floor would be electric, I believe.
You can do propane or natural gas or electric, whatever.
Not sure we have natural gas
Oh,
there.
you don't here. Okay. Yeah,
We're
that's
not
my
Iceland.
bad. But we do some places we do
Geothermal.
that.
and the garage is for tractors and.
tractors,
various-
hay,
Trailer
feed,
storage.
trailer storage. We were discussing before.
What's the square footage of the barn?
Total 19,152, and then in the middle you'll see it's a courtyard layout, so it looks like this image. Actually, Eli built this barn here. It's where I got the idea in New Jersey. In this right corner, that's what the middle will look like
Mm-hmm.
without the fountain, because the horses will need to walk through. So then that'll be open space.
Any other questions? So I think we've raised the key questions, and we'll wait for them for pre-submission application.
Well, the application is actually in.
Is it in?
Tonight, you have your pre-submission conference. So
Oh,
we
it's a hearing.
expect to hear your same questions now.
Well, at least
So then
we're
you're prepared.
consistent.
You're prepared with answers, right?
Exactly. No, this is one that you scheduled the hearing and that wanted us
Yes, to
also
come
to
in.
come in. But
Right.
so you become a little more familiar with it, and hopefully it'll make it a little easier
Yes, that's our
tonight.
job.
You're familiar, and
Well, it's a beautiful facility. We once had an application that as beautiful, if not even more so. And the horses never wanted to leave their air-conditioned stalls. They didn't use the outside paddocks.
Not my horse. My horse likes to eat grass. But thank you so much.
Great.
I'm very excited.
Well, thanks for coming. Good
Thank
luck.
you.
Thank you.
Do you like to look at the samples or just leave them on the side?
You can take them with you.
Okay.
I mean, you've seen some.
And if you want to take these back,
Okay.
You can leave a
the next
couple
time
of.
you
Okay.
You can leave a couple of crema. Crema, do you have one or
Would you like
two
to
of
keep
these?
The samples?
No?
They-
They-
Oh, yes, I have one. Wait, now I have another one.
Okay.
Do you want a few or?
I'll take one.
Maybe a second one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Want me to put this in?
Okay, number 3, by
Thank
the
you,
way.
guys.
Thank you.
The Eastport Mobile Home Park is off the agenda. So we have a second work session. Thank you.
Yeah, I wasn't related. I was just curious where it came from. Did you need to give me one, please?
Yeah, I have something on copy.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, we're moving on to the second application, which is NRP Holding. Claire, is Claire here?
She's here.
Yeah,
She's coming in.
please sit down.
It's a nice
Thank you.
holiday dinner.
Everybody here's Claire.
Should I introduce us all?
Sure.
Hi, I'm John Bennett. I represent the applicant.
Just speak up so that,
Okay.
because we've had,
People are usually telling me either to quiet my voice or to raise my voice.
well, the acoustics in this room are not good.
I'm John Bennett, a project applicant. Rebecca Sinclair, who was the project sponsor's representative here. Sal Coco is the project architect, and Chris Robertson, the engineer.
Thank you.
So,
So, Claire, do you want to do a little
just
overview,
2
please?
seconds.
Yeah.
So well, last week, we had the 3 applications come through, NRP subdivision, it's a PRD. Then, the site plan for the 79 units.
This is the old Struggle site.
79
Right.
plus 1.
78 plus 1.
plus 1. Oh, we lost a unit somewhere along the line.
And the Struggle site plan too, I think just a cleanup of the fronts, which uses which are going to remain, but there's subject to a site plan. So 3 applications. We need additional information, we needed it complete, but at the time of discussion last meeting, we thought it would be productive for you to be brought up to speed on the project.
this was something we saw a long time ago.
You saw it as a referral
Referral.
from
Okay.
the town board.
The town board, yeah, for the
There was a code.
change of zone, right?
Zone change,
MFP,
Multifamily.
Yes.
MFPRD.
Yes. I do have plans. Oh, do you have plans?
Wait,
That are-
we're gonna put that on that.
Yeah,
We might need some more, but
I have
Okay, thanks,
plenty
Claire.
of plans.
Okay, just, well, walk us through
Anyway.
what you're doing.
Everybody knows this property. I think it's the Strebels Laundry up front.
Settles
Yeah.
laundry in the front, right?
So the proposal is to leave that site, the Strebel site, as is and put it on approximately a 5-acre parcel, which more than takes care of any sort of code requirements for that type of use and the size of the property. There's no changes are proposed to the Strebels Laundry. And the balance of the property will, I'll have to cross this out, I had 80, 79 units of fully workforce housing. This has been the subject of a zone change, a full seeker review, so we went through the entire seeker review on it, which this board was a involved agency, so not only did you get a referral on the zone change, but you were part of the seeker process. And there was a full seeker review on it. We went positive deck, DEIS, FBIS findings. So there's been an awful lot of review on this, not only from the substance of the zone change, but also on some of the nitty gritty of it. The proposal is to have 79 units on one parcel, and then a 25% open space set aside. But then the town is going to purchase another piece of the property under the CPF
Do you know how much?
program.
4 acres.
4 acres.
The rest.
And
4 acres
Is
more or
that,
less.
is that shown on this plan?
Well, we're going to talk about that because it seems to be some, I don't know, unless that's been cleared up, Claire, there seems to be some issue as to where that's going to be. I think the town board thinks one thing and maybe the staff or maybe the board thinks another thing, but that's obviously what we have to talk about. So, so you'd have the project site with the 79 units. Then you'd have the 25%, that's one parcel, then the 25% open space parcel was in discussion with Janet. She doesn't want that as a easement. She wants that as a separate standalone parcel, which is typical for a clustered subdivision. It's like an
The open
ag,
space,
yeah, in
yes.
the ag reserve, you have it as, for example, not this you know, or up in the moraine, you'd have it as a separate open space parcel. The Strebels parcel, where the existing use would continue, and then the open space parcel that the town was going to purchase.
The proposed lot 2 that's the Strebels piece.
Lot 2 is the Strebel.
Lots true is the Strebels piece.
And somewhere on proposed lot 1 is the open space.
Somewhere is the open space.
Here.
Yeah. Now, have there been any more discussion about it? Because I know we had a rather, Claire and I and Jackie had a rather, you know, it was an interesting discussion outside. I think that at a certain point I just decided to bow out.
I mean, I'm coming up to speed, right? And I'm reading the secret documents, and in it, it's a PRD. So you have to have an open space parcel, so it'll be 2 lots plus an open space parcel.
Oh, that's fine.
Part of the decision was also that the CPF could purchase a certain amount of area. I have to verify whether it's 4 acres, but it's not the time. 4 acres. So that would be another component. So it really would be a 3-lot subdivision plus an open space parcel that you would consider in front of you. I think we need to sketch something out.
So
That's
the
true.
lot,
Yeah.
so the third lot then is the CPF lot
That's correct.
Yes.
of 4 acres.
But
Wherever that is.
Claire,
Why the CPF buying portion of the property? Is there a particular reason or?
it was part of the negotiation in terms of the number of units and everything. There was a reduction in the units, and there were some concessions made on the layout of the site plan, and that was part of the negotiation.
And then part of the finding statements.
Part
So
of the
I
finding
just need to line up.
I'm just curious because I hadn't heard.
Oh, no, it was part and parcel of it. But I just in very, very broad strokes, there was an easterly piece and a middle piece, and from what Jackie told me, the
Jackie
town...
Fenlon.
Jackie Fenlon, not this Jackie. I would have said Chairman Morrow. I wouldn't have said Jackie. Outside, I would have said Jackie, but
Right,
okay.
I get it.
But the town was looking and had started, or maybe started the appraisal process for the easterly piece. But your thought was that the easterly piece was going to be the open space, and the middle piece was going to be the town CPF piece.
Yeah.
It's almost like I might have we may have our thoughts about what makes the most sense, but I think that some of the dust has to settle on that first. Is that fair? Or?
Yeah, I just, obviously Janice is the one who processed this with the town board, right? So
Yep.
she has the most understanding of where the intention with the open space was, and
Okay.
then, you know, where the intention of this purchase was coming from, and she thought it was more like the northeast portion of the property.
Northeast portion.
So that's just something internally, I think we need to work out to kind of present you, and then, you know, if you're okay.
But it's categorized as a third lot.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct, because
I guess technically, we kept on going back on that, is a 3-lot is a 4-lot, actually. I guess since this is an open space portion, like the typical open space
Right.
specified, it's gonna be a separate parcel.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you wanna call that, so you can call it either 3-lot or 4-lot, but there'll be 4 separate parcels. CPF, open space, Strebels, the project site.
Project site. Now, the project site has 78 plus 1.
78 plus 1, yeah. One is a
One
manager's
is the
unit.
manager.
Okay.
Thank
So what, it's 78
Units.
that went through secret. Is that why the deal was made with CPF? Or
We started at 180.
we
Yes.
started at 180?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's a.
And that was based on some comps in terms of Sabonic Road and everything like that,
Mhm.
a pro rata thing, but it was a lot of community back and forth and town board back and forth, and this seemed like a pathway to get it down to
So is there
79.
on the plan or in the documentation, the final breakdown if it's approved in terms of how many one
Yeah,
Single,
sure. So we have
one bedroom, 2 bedrooms, 3
Yep.
bedrooms?
and I believe the superintendent's unit is 1 bedroom. It was like, but
Yeah, I'm not sure how many.
Well, I
so
can
we
just-
have
It's
30.
31 one bed,
Thank you.
36 two bed, and 12 3 bed.
Say that again. 31 1,
36 2 and 12 3
36 2 beds,
and 12 3.
and 12 3 bedrooms.
So there's on-site wastewater treatment here, which
Sewage
is
treatment plant on
Williams
site
Road.
that'll serve
Mhm.
both properties, yeah. Or
You mean it'll serve as Strebels?
it'll serve the
and
Strebel as
and
well as the.
This development, affordable housing, right?
This is the one we talked about, doing a review of the sewage treatment plant and whether upgrades needed to be made based on the increased use of the site.
I think this is a whole new system.
This is a new
Yeah,
plant.
brand new
It's
system.
It's a completely
Site,
completely
yeah,
new.
on-site plant.
It's all vacant there now.
Yeah, at
Okay,
one point it was
thanks.
still thought whether they could,
There was
whether they could
another-
put in the sewer
Isn't
from
there a
the,
mobile home
from the,
park
from the
next to
mobile
it?
home park on the west
Oh,
side.
I see.
but
They,
that-
they don't want anything to do
Thanks.
with it.
Yeah, I know that didn't happen. So that's a lot more involved.
There was an offer extended.
They didn't.
So this will be like your own separate,
A brand new STP for
Brand
the
new
site.
STP.
Great,
Brand
thank you.
That's just a lot of infrastructure.
Yeah, of course,
On a
to bring
mobile
those things
park.
in,
I don't think
even
they
into.
wanted to
I
just
agree.
The flow
I'm just saying,
is
at
too
one
much.
point
And
there
it
was
was
some
too much
discussion
flow.
about that, but I know it
Too much
didn't go anywhere.
I know we don't have it shown on here, but do you have sufficient space for parking? I don't know, because that's,
Well, that's one of my
Well-
recollections, that the parking, especially if there are, the people who are living there have tractors or trailers, or if they're housing and they're a landscaper, or, and their only vehicle is a big truck.
Well, the big truck sits within a standard 20 by 10 or parking space. You told me to keep my day job at any time. Being the owner of one of them, trailers. that's
Trailers,
it.
no, we don't,
No,
we didn't
don't.
provide trailer parking. We have, there's 157 parking spaces required under the code, and we're providing 186. So we have a little bit of surplus parking built into it, but we did not provide anything for trailers of.
okay, but because what we're
vehicles, yeah.
finding in a lot of the commercial sites, certainly, like a gas station, that the trade business that has an actual truck, they also have a trailer, like a horse trailer attached to it, which doubles the length.
No, there's no question about it.
Yeah, you look at
So-
it,
As far as
you know,
I'm concerned, that would
landscaping
be-
trailers now
that-
are bigger
yeah.
than the
Yeah.
vehicles
As
deposed.
far as I'm concerned, that would be commercial parking in a
Yeah.
residential. We would just wouldn't allow it. I don't think that would be a
You're
habit.
gonna have an HAH here, or homeowners association?
These are rental communities, so it's all under one ownership.
It's rental.
That
So
has-
you- so you have a
management
manager,
company.
essentially.
Yeah, there'll be a manager, and the manager's unit will be provided on site.
Okay.
And I think we talked about electric charging stations.
Yeah, I don't, there's no provision been made for those.
I think the
How's it?
state may require it for funding.
Mike's, excuse me then. You think some of it may require it for funding?
Yeah, there may
That's
be
the
a
case, then
requirement.
we'll have to do
We haven't indicated them
Sorry,
yet, but we can certainly add them.
It may be required for funding to have some EV charging
Yeah.
stations.
Yeah, but if we
in
do,
the lot.
it's important that they be left for the residents.
Oh, it's only for the.
Yeah, it's only for the residents,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we're really strong proponents, and it's in the climate action plan. Which has been adopted by the town, so the climate action plan is calling for solar where you can put it and the EV stations.
Yeah, we've been looking at solar on the roof, and
Good.
I think we will require EV stations.
Good.
And the state funding sources have their own requirements for efficiency and all of that we have to adhere to.
Yes.
So you got state funding.
We do not yet have funding, and actually that's part of our
Part of the
eagerness to
process?
get through the process because there's a round coming up in the fall, and we have multiple sources in this project. And in order to layer them in properly, we need to sort of get through this process.
Good. Okay.
I was gonna say, can you just reveal which state funding sources?
Most likely we'll be applying for state tax credits for this site. Low income housing tax credits that cover this workforce housing range of incomes. And so HCR, the state agency that handles the administration of those, has its own requirements for efficiency that conform with the state CLCPA, which you all have adopted with it.
Yes.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. Good.
And something, managing the parking, assigning parking spaces or something like that. I mean, you got a ways to go yet, but I think that's also something where you assign the parking spaces to the apartments.
To the units?
The units.
I don't know, I haven't thought about that.
I think you might want to
Okay.
think about that. Again,
Just the
It
management.
can get out of
It's a
control.
It's a large site.
you can have, multiple people parking, you can have guests, you can have a lot. I mean, it's great that you're exceeding the required minimum. That's a good thing. But again, that's something with
Let's
so
see it
many
standard,
units and
yeah.
so many rental units, you may have some element of control you're gonna have to, and maybe once you get in there, you're gonna have to find out you have to do it, but it's something you might wanna look into. Some of the larger rental apartment type
That's pretty
buildings do assign spaces.
The developer has a management portfolio of other sites, so this would just be part and parcel to their management.
Well, I'd be interested in seeing, I think we would all be interested in seeing how to plan to manage the site, the parking. Are there going to be covenants, for example, even for people who rent there? So I live across the street in Deborah Drive, fair warning, just to let you know. And one of the covenants we had, which has been fairly well enforced when that development was done, that people were not allowed to park their work vehicles with
The work.
well, with
vehicles, yeah.
anything with a that says,
No trailers.
Or
no,
name
well, forget a trailer,
It's like a
not
commercial.
even a truck
No.
with a logo on it, right?
Okay.
In order to maintain the
I can see the prohibition against trailers, but to the extent that you have workforce housing, I'd probably think that we wouldn't impose anything like that. That's more of a single family
I understand, but that's
subdivision,
just
and
by
I
way
get
of
it. Yeah,
by way of
yeah, yeah.
by way of maybe just explaining what we'd like to see, what kind of
I mean, I think that would be helpful for the
Covenants.
community to accept a development like this, to know kind of what the rules are gonna be, so that they know it's gonna be nice, which I know that's
No.
what we're planning.
My experience is if you're gonna have workforce housing, you're gonna have people that have trucks with signage on it. I understand fully because it's a disaster, allowing any sort of trailers there. I mean, quite literally, I had to negotiate about 5 of them in the half-a-mile drive
Yeah.
from my office in the street.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what a disaster in a parking area. I get that. But I think if, when you have workforce housing, you're gonna have men and women who probably have signage on.
Some of those are gonna be commercial vehicles.
And
Yeah.
even though they're parking commercial vehicles, they're not a commercial use, but that's what they're gonna drive home, I think it's a different when you have a single family.
I wasn't suggesting that.
Okay.
I was just
Okay.
using it as an
Right.
example of what you may want to think about covenanting.
So as a work
Limiting
session,
what
we're
parking.
just bringing
Yeah,
up
no,
Sure.
I love it, It's
potential
great.
issues and questions and hoping that you'll
I mean, I
incorporate
Yeah.
them into your plan.
I had raised one issue during our review during SECRA, and I don't think it was ever really looked at. Well, maybe it was. And the idea that you have essentially 139 bedrooms now, living in a in a fairly confined space, but you have one access off on the South Country Road, which is a single lane two-way divide. It's a divided entrance coming in. I had suggested that they look at doing an emergency outlet onto Carwin Lane, But if you have something happens in here from that entrance, Carwin,
That's to the east.
To the east, yeah.
The only thing you'd have to say is that
So,
we'd have to be very careful.
is that Carwin
the
Lane?
open
Carwin
space-
Lane's here. Yeah,
I'm looking at a different plan than you are, so that's why.
We'd have to be
our
very
nearest
careful.
building's 243 feet from the property line at Carwin Lane, and that's the majority of the natural wooded area that's being maintained on the property, and we also have some grade topography differentials between the parking lot and Carwin Lane. I don't know if it's
I remember exactly the
valuable
last time
to
we
put a
discussed this.
secondary driveway out to there, or we have to weigh the impact to it versus the gain.
I'll just raise that again as something to look at, and given that we have the complication of additional lots being purchased by CPF, and whether that's even a possibility. Because those may be the areas powering the retention. Is that retention basin? I'm looking at this plan with
Yeah.
the retention basin showing, which is meant to handle stormwater from
It's going to be handled stormwater from this site. It's kind of going to be
So that's
a
an area
natural
obviously.
basin that's there now. It's a natural hole that's there now. We're going to continue to utilize that natural depression.
Well, it's an interesting point because it's a lot of units, it's a lot of people, and if you do have an emergency evacuation, it's a lot for just one point.
Was it
So I don't know where
evacuation
another
issue
point could be.
or emergency, or like a fire access?
Both. It could be both,
Okay.
right? The fire access, of course, again for the same reason, because if you have
Because if the fire departments, they're all very equipped. If the fire departments during a fire want to get through there to fight a fire, they're going to get through there.
You get your brush truck
Yeah,
through
they'll
there.
get through. Yeah,
well,
they'll
not
get
Even-
through
even
there.
with the
not if it has a good
Right,
120-foot water retention basin, after it's been built.
Even the divided road we have coming in, we have 20 feet of pavement on either side of the drive aisle.
So maybe
And the
that's
minimum
it.
fire department for commercial aerial apparatus is 20. So
Oh, no, I'm
we
sure the
actually
fire department
have
can
2
come in.
lanes that can
I'm
bring
sure
the
they can
fire
come
trucks
in.
into the property.
Right, you could maybe reconfigure that entranceway to divide it in and out and.
They're going to grab the
Yeah, I
out
think-
lane on the way in if they need to get in. That's what I'm saying. There's 2
Yes.
roads that get them into the property in that
That's what they're
spot.
going to do. And if need be, every one of the departments is equipped out here. They'll get through that. They'll get through that depression.
When the application comes in, we'll have a review.
Yeah, absolutely. This is just
Yeah.
so that we can get a sense of it. Claire, what were the 186 parking spaces based on? How is that configured?
They did it on the number of units and the size of the bedrooms. So 147 you said was required, right?
57.
Well, 57. So that is the requirement. They're just providing the 186 because they think they need more.
Because I had, somebody said 170 and 186, so what, am I,
157, right?
157.
157?
Was required and
150.
186 provided.
Right. Of the 186 provided, we had 176 paved spaces. We had we had some set for the leasing office, and we also had some land bank parking in there, 6 of them, so 180
So-
provided.
So is that base, for example, I'm sorry, but for example, you have 31 one-bedroom units. So nobody walks, there's no public transport, there's no other way of means of getting around other than by a car, in this area and generally in the town. So if there's a couple staying there, that's 2 cars per one-bedroom unit. If you have a 2-bedroom unit, potentially 3 cars per minimum. And a 3-bedroom unit is possibly looking at 4 or more if you have 2, depending on how many people are staying, which far exceeds the amount even being provided right now. So it's how you look at that from the code, but also from a practical point of view and a realistic point of view, what actually happens, on the east end of the town. There's no public transportation for people to
I
take.
think just the other thing to consider here is that these are regulated units, which means that there's an income threshold for those families that are in there. So you're not going to have, let's say, 4 guys that, they're not, I'm trying to think of the right scenario here, but you're not going to have 4 guys who will make $100,000 a year sharing a 2-bedroom apartment with 4 cars because you can only have a certain threshold for those incomes for those families. And so it's you're not going to have, let's say, multiple roommate situations.
I understand,
But one family could have more cars than.
Certainly, yeah. It's
speculation.
Just, there's I'm just saying there's sort of a regulator to this too. You can't sort of double up and do things that you would.
Now, I
do
wasn't
in
even
a
thinking that one person might have more than 1 car, but I'm thinking
Yeah.
that anybody who lives there. So even if you have a couple making $40,000 a year,
Well, that's why
there's
they
no
have
way to get around other than with a car.
That's why we have 30 extra spaces. I'm trying to build in some buffer there, George. I'm not at all, poo-pooing your argument. That's the reason why we built that and some other reasons, just to have excess for guests, just 30 extra spaces. So we're not just
And the
sitting in-
requirement's 1.75 for a one-bedroom. It's 2 parking spaces for a 2-bedroom and 2.5 for a 3. So the balance is well over 2 per unit throughout the whole thing, which, designing a lot of multifamily complexes is a large number, more than is necessary.
Yeah, it meets the code, it's just, whether
I
you're
knew
saying
I knew
the
you were
code might
saying
be a
it
little
might
off.
meet the
From a
code.
practical
Yes.
standpoint, this is far in excess of what would be actually needed.
Well, it's
Well,
the same,
we'll
the same,
wait to see what actually happens when it's built. But
Yeah.
I doubt that.
the same with the number of children it will bring in when we look at what is suggested, and then the reality seems to be more based on the couple of
We actually have
recent.
support from the school district as well. They actually spoke at our zoning hearing about the decrease in children from the district and their concern that families couldn't afford to be there. So we see this as an opportunity to, both help those families that are seeking housing, but also to help, reinforce the school district, because they're gonna face funding cuts if the trend continues.
Yeah, that was one of the first outreaches that we did.
Sure.
That's great.
School
That's always
district.
an
Which
issue.
school
Right.
district really is?
It's
really-
West
oh,
Hampton.
So Hampton.
Okay.
And just, if I can, continuing on children, I believe we talked about amenities for kids on the property, which
Some kind of park
A
or
little
something.
park.
I don't know if that's already in the plans.
Yeah, we
or
have a
not.
playground by the community building. We have a large outdoor patio by the community building with barbecue areas. And we also have some in the courtyard in the middle.
Good.
There's recreation space in there as
Good,
well.
good,
That's
great.
already part
No,
of
we
the plan.
Okay.
listened to you on that one.
It's kind of hard to see it on this plan.
Now, I don't know if this is
It's hard to see it
at all
on the
possible,
subdivision map. On the site plan,
but
it's a
does
lot
the
easier to
Suffolk
follow.
County bus travel along that road?
I don't know.
Because it would be great to have a bus stop.
Do
That
a
some of the
I don't-
workers,
I don't think it travels on that.
I
they
don't,
don't go
It travels
on
on
that?
Montauk.
Other lawn there.
I think the only
It's a
time
Montauk
it's
Highway,
is
because
92, which
the
goes,
bus does travel
does the
through
entire circle.
Montauk Highway, so you could do like some kind of pedestrian pathway.
We'd have to look at
The
that.
county's also switching to it sort of an on-demand service, so
Uh-huh.
while they're doing that, we could probably ask for consideration. But I think folks will actually be able to, not like an Uber, but if you're predicting sort of that you're gonna need to travel, you could do that. So that's a great recommendation that we could speak to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really would be helpful to have public transportation
Sure.
available there as
They do.
Stop and Shop in that whole area, the bus stops there. It's just logical and practical.
yeah, the newly reconfigured, network that the county uses, the western end of the town is kind of a public transportation desert. The on-demand that you're talking about currently doesn't cover the western end of the town. And I think there may be one bus route that comes down Spionk Riverhead Road.
We're certainly
But I
happy
think
to
that's
talk
about
to
as
county
close, but we
DPW
can-
about
If you can't-
consideration.
I mean, you can go on the website right now and find out what bus service is available in that area. Unfortunately, not very much at all, I'm afraid.
That's why we have so many darn cars on the road, because we don't have public transportation. But this is an ideal situation for it. It's just like a mini city, so. Okay, any other recommendations?
What should we do about the configuration for the subdivision? I'm anxious to get
Well,
that.
CPF.
yeah, we should do something. Let's look internally. So let's talk in the next couple days, and
What about that
I want to
policy?
speak to Janice. I'll see her Monday, so I'll have to talk to her.
You notice how at a certain point I bowed out of that conversation?
Yes.
Does it have a name? Have a name?
I think we call this the Preserve at South Country Road.
The Preserve at South Country Road.
It's labeled
The preserve
preserve,
itself.
preserve.
Oh, great. It's
Is it Preserve or?
pretty funny.
You still keep on
Preserve,
looking at it,
yeah.
and you're like,
That's
oh,
pretty funny.
right.
You look at these things.
Tip tree? Thanks for listening.
No, but in keeping with what George was saying, the old development on South Country Road, they had only one entrance in and out And we tried to get another one, but would have to go across the train tracks. And that was just an impossibility. But that was even more units.
This was in East Quad, that one, I'm sorry.
The old, one of the first affordable units?
No,
was
what's the-
Malloy? No.
Was this
I'm really dating myself here.
trailer park?
Yeah, I think you're talking about the
No.
East Quad,
No, I'm not
Mobile
talking about
home?
the trailer park at all. I'm talking about, these were houses. Yeah,
Are you talking about,
south of the hill.
Pine?
the pines,
The pines, sorry,
the
the
pines,
pines.
That's an
exactly.
old
The
subdivision.
pines, it's an old subdivision.
That isn't
And they had
Malloy,
one way in
was
and
it?
one way out, but there were a lot of
That
houses.
was Malloy.
Yeah.
And-
Yeah.
It was.
Was it Malloy?
They're building a bridge over there.
And so,
Yeah, I didn't- yeah.
the whole issue about getting across the railroad tracks was
Forget
like,
it. It was, Try dealing with the MTA.
right? Yeah. Okay, thank
Very
you
good.
very
Thank you very
much. We
much.
appreciate the input.
I'm not set up to look at that.
Said everything?
Did you make it over
Yeah.
Is there anything on there that's different? I mean, this doesn't have a lot.
Were you in Santa Margarita at all? Were you in Santa
this
Margarita?
one is the site plan,
Steel bar, I think, if it's,
Yeah.
bring it back next meeting.
Oh,
Is that, you have more copies?
you know. And then they're gonna revise it
Can you-
too.
great.
Thank you.
Okay, we're closing out the work session and opening up the regular session for today. And the first application is Farrell Butter Lane.
We're going to do the 7-Eleven one.
Oh, we're gonna do that. Yeah, we've
We're going to do
moved,
9/11 next.
we've moved item number 16 to be item number 1, which is 911 Flanders LLC.
Kevin, there should be Matthew Carmody from AKRF. Okay.
This, all the stuff I got there.
There was
Which I
all
didn't
this
read.
stuff. This is all the stuff that
There's one thing on the
All
agenda,
the traffic.
Noyak off
traffic.
and then I added this little one for the town. It's not bad.
Anthony,
I saw the plan, I was gonna ask what it was.
you wanna give us an
Yeah, so let me just.
intro? Claire, did you just hand out these? Is this the traffic report?
Yes, what I just
Yeah,
handed
Anthony
you.
gave
Did
that.
everybody get these?
Yeah.
No, it's, take
I
one,
need a
take one
copy.
and pass it.
I have my own.
Did you get one?
Thanks.
Yeah, I can do that.
Just, the board is familiar with this project. This is the property there. As you can see at the corner of Flanders Road and Riverlay Avenue in Riverside, former gas station at the traffic circle there. This is a pending application to redevelop this with a new gas station with 6 pumps for a total of 12 stations. A convenience store, I think it's 2,824 square feet, and associated parking. We have been in the process, we're in the secret review process right now, and we've been going back and forth dealing with a big component of it, not the only secret issue, but a big major one was the traffic, given the location at the traffic circle and a convenience store and gas station, which typically has a continuous flow of traffic in and out. The planning board retained AKRF to assist with the review of the traffic study and information prepared by the applicant. We've had a couple of rounds. Most recently, Matthew Carmody from AKRF, we got it yesterday, gave a draft memo based on the most recent information that was submitted by the applicant. He's here to discuss with the planning board the report with you and his recommendations. It's my understanding that based on the discussion that we have today, Mr. Carmody then will prepare a final version of this for the board for the next meeting, at which time then we would be in a position to do the secret determination for this project. So that's where we are, and I guess we'll let Matthew discuss the memo with the board.
Welcome, Matthew.
Thank you, Chair and board members.
Can you up your audio? Can you increase your audio?
Yeah, can you hear me better?
A little bit better.
Let me, one idea.
Maybe Kevin, can you up the audio on this side?
First.
Can you say something?
Is now good?
Much better.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I can hear you, so
Great.
fantastic. We had a number of comments and concerns from the materials that were dated as recently as November 2023. So although we had a number of concerns in the February memorandum based on the November 2023 traffic impact study, what has changed since then is that we were waiting on the State Department of Transportation or the Suffolk County Department of Public Works to assist in the review because there was a disagreement over the number of new trips that would be generated versus the number of trips that would already be passing by and decide to stop in to fuel up or buy something in the 7-Eleven. So the State Department of Transportation, following our February memorandum, issued a response that they have no comment on the traffic impact study and agree with the methodology. So the remaining concerns that we have are the following. One is the distribution of traffic that is assumed is very low coming from the west, from the LIE, in our opinion. It assumes that 25% of the new traffic generated by the gas station would come on New York 24 Nugent Drive from the LIE and enter the roundabout to go to the gas station and convenience store. Well, that was low, but again, New York State DOT didn't comment on it. We just didn't see them agreeing or disagreeing to that specific point. The next
Matthew,
comment
can I just interrupt for a second so that we're all on the same page? This is on page 7 of your report, and it's under recommendations.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
That's the first bullet under recommendations.
Right.
Do you want to discuss them after I presented each one, or should I go through all 4?
Why don't you go through all 4? Go through all 4.
Yep. Next, in a previous comment, we had asked for a safety study to be done. A safety study was done, and also vehicle sight distance drawings were provided. However, our remaining concern, even though the safety study and sight distance drawings were provided, was that there is a mention of needing additional safety improvements at the roundabout, but then there is not a commitment to pursuing it further, and it is placed on the jurisdictional agency to deal with it, which is the Suffolk County Department of Public Works. So our concern is that there's just identification of potential solutions to the safety concerns that they have noted with no commitment or for further need to deal with them because it's Suffolk County Department of Public Works roundabout. Next, it is 2 conditions or concerns that we had previously had. One is that because the curb between the parking spaces in front of the 7-Eleven is flush, it's not indicated that the ADA parking space would have ADA access. It's been responded by the applicant team that that's a flush curb and there would be bollards. So we just want to make sure that that continues to be the case, or that there is an ADA ramp if they decide to raise the curb between the ADA parking space and the entrance. The other condition is because of the conflict with garbage pickup for the dumpster, it interferes with the parking spaces that would be used during the busy hours. The applicant said that they would agree to having a condition of approval being that being off hours, overnight or early morning trash pickup. And the final concern, which I think goes back and relates to the safety concern at the roundabout, is that we have not seen any coordination with the jurisdictional agency for the other site access. We've seen it for the state DOT on the Flanders Road, New York 24 access. We have not seen any evidence of coordination with the Suffolk County Department of Public Works for County Route 108 Riverlay Avenue access, and maybe the applicant can respond to that, but those are the four main concerns that we have remaining. Now that the State Department of Transportation has commented on some of the concerns that were theoretically passed over.
So I have a question on the second bullet about safety improvements as related to the roundabout. And that I understand is the jurisdiction of Suffolk County DOT or Department of Public Works. There was, when the roundabout was installed, were there safety requirements provided, and was that coordinated with this or not?
No, it was built and then it was improved in more recent years, and then since then the applicant's traffic engineering impact study identifies that further safety improvements would be beneficial. Not that there's a safety impact from this project, but that there are background safety concerns due to the configuration of the roundabout and faded pavement markings, and it discusses potential improvements, but then doesn't go any further. So I think it is the traffic impact study itself that is identifying the need for improvements, and that's our comment is where does it go from there? It just kind of punts it to the Suffolk County DPW from there.
Is it someone's responsibility more than another? Is it the applicant's responsibility or the Suffolk County Department of Public Works?
The traffic impact study says that it's the Suffolk County Department of Public Works responsibility, but we don't know what the Suffolk County Department of Public Works thinks about that statement because they haven't been coordinated.
And my other question was Rivoli Avenue. So we're going to have fuel trucks essentially coming in on Rivoli and turning into this project. And I think that's what you studied.
So I'm looking at the
It's
vehicle.
the fourth bullet, yeah.
Yeah, so it is not specifically related to the fuel truck access. It is related to the access permit when you access. So you're the town. This planning board is not responsible for the street access of County Route 104. It's Suffolk County Department of Public Works. They have some sort of permitting to be able to access their site for this project because there are alterations. The applicant is undergoing that same process on the other access with New York Route 24's jurisdictional agency, the State Department of Transportation. So we're asking the applicant, has there been any coordination with Suffolk County, who is the owner of the other access, Riverline?
In your review, I remember several sessions back with you, we had concern about internal circulation from large fueling trucks coming in from Riverly and how they were going to get to the pumps and circulate around. So can you just make some comments on that?
So since then, we have been supplied the vehicle circulation plan, and the vehicle circulation plan does show a full-size fuel delivery tractor trailer, a tanker truck, being able to turn in from Riverly and being able to get around the island of pumps and get to the tank access hatches, which of course the front of the site. without impeding, without encroaching on any of the structure of the roof of the fueling area. So we don't have a concern anymore for on-site circulation or the geometry of the site access from off-site to on-site, since we've been supplied the vehicle circulation drawing.
Thank you.
Matthew, could you, on page 6, the bold comment dated 7/10/2024, can you speak a little bit to the left turns in and the left turns out, and the you say it appears to show sufficient line of sight between vehicles turning left into the access and vehicles exiting the roundabout onto Flanders Road, but above so that's vehicles that were going west making the left into the gas station. Right above that, I think you say that vehicles exiting the gas station and making a left, a vehicle site triangle has not been provided. Can you speak to this a little bit?
Yes, so the vehicle site triangle on Flanders Road has been provided for a vehicle leaving the site and making a right. They're not allowed to make a left to leave the site and go towards the roundabout. So that site triangle has been provided, which shows that there is adequate sight distance between a vehicle leaving the roundabout and going onto Flanders Road, and then having the line of sight with the vehicle exiting the gas station road driveway and making a right on Flanders. What isn't provided, but we feel has been addressed by that site triangle that is provided, is there is a continuous two-way left turn lane on Flanders that serves businesses across the street, as well as the site we're talking about. A vehicle making a left turn in needs to see vehicles coming out of the roundabout also, just like a vehicle turning right to go down Flanders Road away from the roundabout. That site triangle is not in the site distance drawing, but when you look at the site triangle that is provided, it appears to cover that movement because it almost touches the left turn lane. So there are no obstructions that are between the roundabout and the continuous two-way left turn lane because it's the middle of the street. There's not going to be any signs or anything raised there. So we just wanted to point out that it's not a complete drawing because it doesn't show all of the site triangles necessary. But by using the site triangles that are provided, we feel that it's sufficient.
Okay, and we would be prohibiting lefts out.
Correct.
That's understood. Okay.
Right, and I mean, correct. And on the River Lee side, there would be only right turns in and right turns out, no lefts in or out.
Okay.
Matthew, I have a further question about safety, and I don't know whether or not you integrated this into your comments, but we have pedestrian crosswalks here, which create a real issue. So, in my mind anyway, so can you just address those pedestrian, what happens with people walking across 2 lanes of traffic, cars trying to go into a roundabout and staying alive? So.
Yeah, that actually is part of what the comment is saying. I'm going to read part of the safety concern recommendation so that everybody understands, and I'm glad that you're making that point. We're asking the applicant in the safety section to elaborate on the safety improvements for traffic, bicycle, and pedestrians at the site access points, so crossing the 2 driveways and at the roundabout itself. So our concern is not just vehicular safety, it is bicycle and pedestrian safety, and it has only addressed concerns at the roundabout itself, paved pavement markings we mentioned, and then the strange configuration of the roundabout itself. So our recommendation is to elaborate on that, and we'd like to see more about what are the recommendations, because there are people that need to cross the roundabout, more traffic than be added to it, and where pedestrians are walking by the vacant site now, there's now going to be vehicles turning in and out, and we would like to see some more recommendations or what's going to be done so that there's good lines of sight. Is there going to be any additional signage or striping? There are a number of safety improvements that could be woven in to the site plan or into any kind of covenants for this project. We just would like to see more on the safety side.
So how does someone use the pedestrian crosswalk? There's no light, there's no signal? How does that happen?
Yeah, and unfortunately, this really is apart from this application, but when a roundabout is placed in an environment where you have a lot of pedestrians, it makes safety much better for vehicles, but it can cause an increase in crashes between pedestrians and vehicles, because you are often replacing a traffic signal, which has very clear walk and don't walk signals for pedestrians, with a permissive movement at an uncontrolled marked crosswalk. So that point is well taken, and it goes towards our safety concerns. You're adding traffic to this marked uncontrolled crosswalk. It doesn't have walk signals, and roundabouts are typically less safe for pedestrians, safer for vehicles in comparison to a signalized intersection.
I would also add that we're building a fairly large convenience store, which presumably is going to attract customers that are not necessarily in a car. So we may be adding pedestrians to the site and the crosswalks.
That was part of the actual rationale to bring people to the rationale for the convenience store was to bring people to the site on foot. And so here we have, are we promoting a disaster by doing that? And my second question is a pedestrian crossing a requirement of a roundabout design?
It is not a requirement, but here you would not want to remove them. These are established desire lines, as we call them, so people will be crossing here if you have a marked crosswalk or not. And in the world of transportation engineering and safety, if it's a desire line, you want to not dissuade people from using it, you want to make it as safe as possible. So this goes again to the concern that there should be more of an emphasis on the roundabout pedestrian safety with this application. So we really like to hear more from the applicant on how they're going to improve safety for people that are going to be walking to the site, not just driving.
So
something like pedestrian activated flashing, yellow flashing crossing lights or something.
Yes, that would be completely appropriate and would be a measurable safety improvement. What you're talking about, so everybody can understand, is at uncontrolled marked crosswalks, such as the ones that are on the legs of the roundabout, there is a push button that you would normally see that gives you walk signal, but it actuates the beacon, which is called a rectangular rapid flashing beacon. So it's these two rectangles that flash in a wig-wag pattern very quickly and rapidly, and they're dark until the actuator button is hit, and then they flash rapidly red, and they draw the driver's attention to the sign that's already there. which is a pedestrian warning sign for a crosswalk. So that would be an improvement that we would recommend. You know, we want to hear what the applicant thinks, but that would be something that we were doing this ourselves. We would recommend that. That is a fairly low cost and easily implementable improvement. There are solar versions that don't require electrical engineering tie-ins, and that they're commonly put on, you know, if it's Suffolk County or state DOT right of way, they're put everywhere across the state.
Does that in any way impede the flow of traffic into a traffic circle, which is part of the imperative of a traffic circle?
It technically does. The more people you have, the more vehicles have to yield. The state law is that you yield to pedestrians in a marked crosswalk, and where it's uncontrolled. So the pedestrian does have the right of way because the crossing has been legally established by the marked crosswalk. So the more pedestrians, the more vehicles have to wait, and you know that can lead to problems. It kind of goes back to the initial point that I made, that at a certain tipping point, when you have an urban environment with more people walking than driving, a roundabout is less safe. So I don't think this intersection is at that tipping point, but it's definitely the 7-Eleven convenience store is going to contribute more people on foot than are there now, for certain.
Thank you. Any other questions on the traffic? Tom, you have any others?
Good.
So you have most of your comment addressed, but there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 7 that require further review or requiring further information. Is that correct?
Actually, if they're following the page 7 recommendations, we just included the previous ones for clerical purposes.
Okay.
Those are dated February 6th, and those are resolved or are part of the new recommendations from July 10th. So it's really just focusing on the 4 bullets on page 7 under recommendations.
So it's page 7 sort of is the end of the current update. The others,
Yes.
it's just history
Yeah.
provided.
Yeah.
Yes, and we struggled with how to provide everything in one memo, because this is the 3rd or 4th iteration of our comments, and we wanted to have everything in one place, so we could move that to an appendix in the next version, so no confusion.
Thanks. Anthony, how do you want to proceed from now? Do you,
I think the applicant wants to get up now.
please?
Yes. We'd like to have Beta LaRosa, please explain the comments to what the town's outside traffic consultant just quoted.
Okay. Give me your name, sorry.
Amanda LaRosa, I'm a professional traffic engineer with Stonefield Engineering and Design. We prepared the study that you've heard comments on from Mr. Carmody. So I'd just like to go through, he had 4 main points, and then anything else that the board has, I can take it from there.
Okay, great.
So the first comment was relating to the distribution of traffic. So when we're preparing this study and routing traffic to a site like this, the new traffic specifically that Mr. Carmody is referring to, we look at basically the area as a whole. We're looking for places of work, people's homes, anywhere where someone might be that they might decide, hey, I'm going to leave this location, go get either gas or convenience store items, and then return immediately back to that location. So the sole purpose of that trip is to go to the site. That's the purpose of a new trip. So we basically look at aerial imagery to determine where hubs might be, where people would be coming from. I know this comment was specifically related to trips destined to and from the expressway. The reason that we're only routing 25% from there is that there is a 7-Eleven and gas station at exit 71. So a user from the expressway is really unlikely to go 4.5 miles down the road through this traffic circle for that use when they have a closer, much convenient option. It's the exact same user in this case. And then other locations, there are 7-Elevens and convenience stores within close proximity. Our traffic impact study included some exhibits showing nearby locations, and we do feel that the routings as included in the report that the DOT has okayed are justified as is.
Matthew, you can hear all of this?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm taking notes, and
Okay.
as Anthony said, we will issue a final memorandum, and I'll be using Amanda's comments to add to today's memorandum.
Okay. Amanda?
If I may, just, so this is more productive to this, anything Mr. Carmody has in response to.
Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Good afternoon, Keith Brown, Montaleo, 531 Old Country, sorry, Route 110, Melville, New York 11747. For the applicant, if I may, Madam Chair, members of the board, in order to make this more a productive meeting, so we can really isolate what is left at this juncture, if Mr. Carmody has any further comments to what Ms. LaRosa is testifying to, we'd like to hear those now, if at all possible.
Okay. So there are these 4 points on the recommendations, and you're responding to those.
Yes, the first
Okay.
point. And Matt, for your note taking, if you refer to figures A1 and A2 in the report, they're appendix pages A15 and A16. Those have depicted the nearby locations that factored into our routings. And then again, 4.5 miles out is well beyond the scope of these. But based on the provision of that very similar use, we're just not expecting traffic to be coming from the expressway.
Yeah, and I'm sorry that there was an interruption in what you were saying. Was the third point that I didn't get to note, that your counterpoint one was that there is a 7-Eleven in exit 71 already. I remember what the third point is that State DOT didn't have any issue with methodology. So I got my notes for the 3 counterpoints. So yes, we will review again the other convenience store locations and the explanation of the distribution, and in all likelihood we'll take that recommendation off of the final memo. So thank you for responding to that. If you want to go to the next one.
Great, thanks so much.
Thank you.
So the next point was regarding the signage, pavement markings, traffic controls, methods at the roundabout. So the points in the traffic study were just pointing out that the county has ultimate jurisdiction over this, so we're happy to coordinate the ask. But ultimately, if the county shoots down our recommendation for additional speed limit signs, we're ultimately tied to whatever they said, but we're happy to introduce it. High Point Engineering has already begun correspondence with the county regarding the access on Riverly, as you've already heard. So we're happy to discuss it as part of the ongoing review.
That's great, and I think that's something that the board members individually have expressed the desire for, is for that conversation to move forward because of the safety concerns that they have. So I'm glad that you're committing to coordinating the conversation with Suffolk County DPW on safety. And then you actually answered bullet number 4 with that too.
Yeah, and then just building on the explanation in number 2, we have submitted to both the DOT, the state DOT and the county DPW, and the signage and pavement markings at each site driveway will address all of their standard requirements, which are sometimes federal requirements. So we're in compliance with MUTCD standards for signage and striping. This is basically the gold standard. It's established by federal agencies, and that'll be required to ultimately pull the permits before we get into construction. So there's no doubt that we'll be complying with that.
If I could just jump in on this for a second.
Sure.
So are we kind of going under the assumption that, or presumption that recommendations such as rapid flashing beacons or, that similar type of traffic safety device would become the responsibility of the county? Is that kind of where this is going?
So it certainly is the county's intersection. I mean, they just went through a very in-depth process of having Nelson and Pope review this circle. They made many improvements to the circle, including pedestrian improvements. They pulled back the crosswalks. They implemented the high visibility signage that's there. They added the pedestrian refuge islands, which shortens the distance of each crossing, so you're not getting pedestrians caught quite literally in the middle of the intersection. And these were all measures that they did for the purpose of pedestrian safety that we're talking about. And this is on a high level, county level. The town was involved, the town of Riverhead was involved, reputable traffic engineer who prepared these models. So I think they've considered everything that you've said in the changes that they made to the circle pretty recently.
And yeah, I'm aware, I appreciate that, but they didn't do flashing.
That's right. Yep.
They decided not to do that.
They did.
I would assume they looked at it and decided not to do.
I would agree.
Okay.
What's the date of that Nelson Pope and Voorhees report, Amanda?
I'm sorry, what was your
What's
question?
the date of that Nelson Pope report?
So there wasn't actually a complete report, but the work was done between like 2015 and 18. I did review some of the output results, basically for calibrations for my own model. And that was data that they had counts from 2019 or so were their most recent set.
So we're talking 6 or 7 years ago.
Right.
And to your point, that this is bringing more pedestrians to a site
Mhm.
when the county, if introduced by your project, which is causing more people to come, they may change their mind and add that because of the changing
Right.
conditions. So I think it's a great
It's a
suggestion.
good recommendation.
Yeah,
We can certainly discuss with them.
Mhm.
I would also point out that because of the pedestrian volumes that we're anticipating visiting the site has been designed to provide ADA access directly from the sidewalk in the right-of-way on both frontages directly into the site. So everything that can possibly be done on site has been done. It's above and beyond the minimum requirements.
On that point, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but are you saying that the driveways do not have a curb return, that it's a drop curb?
So the ramps that are at the driveway,
I mean the access to Flanders and Riverlea.
at each of the pedestrian ramps, they meet the asphalt flush. There can't be a reveal. It's a standard with ADA requirements. It's a federal standard that we have to comply with. Yes.
Okay, I do see it now. So there are curb ramps that come down to the curb return. Okay, I understand what you mean by it being ADA compliant and agree. So I think in our final memorandum, we're going to put in the rectangular rapid flashing beacon recommendation specifically and ask that the applicant request that from Suffolk County and then figure out who's going to pay for it and install it. Because I think that supplemental pedestrian safety measures need to go in, as was said. It's been a number of years since it was last upgraded, and we'll be adding more pedestrian.
Yeah, we're happy to initiate discussions with the county throughout the review process. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't look favorably upon it, just because it does add delay to a roundabout, and the main purpose of installing a roundabout is that there shouldn't be much vehicular delay. So we're certainly happy to discuss it. I just can't promise that they will agree to it.
Yeah, the RRFB is not going to add delay. It's the people coming to the convenience store that would add delay, whether there's a beacon or not.
And if people get squished, there's going to be a big delay.
Right. Yep.
Well, just to be clear, we have no objection to that. We're happy to initiate that discussion with Suffolk County DPW, if that is their final analysis and request, then we're happy to abide by that. It is their jurisdiction, of course.
Okay, thanks, Matthew. I think we've covered all of the traffic issues. I just have I have a site plan issue of that.
Yeah, there was just the third bullet, the two previous conditions. I don't think any time needs to be spent on them, but I didn't know if Amanda or Keith needed to respond to those. They had to do with the trash pickup and the flush curb at the entrance.
Amanda, do you have a comment on those last two bullets about?
Yeah, the garbage pickup and the curbs, those,
None?
the applicant is
Okay.
perfectly fine with those.
This is not traffic related. Keith, you might want to
Sure.
be there. Way back in the, I guess it was pre-submission report, we put out a thought for this site because it is so constrained. And that is to put the 7-Eleven building in the front and the gas pumps behind, so that there is a presence at the circle, and that you have the active traffic behind. So I just throw that out as a site plan issue. I don't know if you've had any discussion about it at all, or.
We have. If I may have a moment.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Murphy is reminding me, in terms of zoning and because of the town code, the way it's written, we wouldn't be able to do an accessory structure in the front yard. Correct?
Is that true?
That would be an accessory building. The convenience store, Jefferson Murphy, Sag Harbor for the record. The code specifically states in a commercial zoning district, you cannot put an accessory use in a required front yard.
This
And the
HB?
convenience store is an accessory use to the gas station.
And I will say one other thing, just from a practical point of view, I was involved with the only other 7-Eleven on Long Island that actually did such a thing at the request of the Village of Lake Grove. That store is now closed. And the problem with it was that people couldn't see whether or not the 7-Eleven was open, whether or not, because the number one word is convenience, right? If there are no parking stalls in front, people are not going to use it. And the building blocks the view of the parking stalls directly in front of the convenience store. So it really hampers the operations of the business, and it would no doubt really spell that this site would not function well and would not perform adequately. So I don't think it's a great idea. What we did propose, actually, recently we had a meeting with Planning Commissioner and the Deputy Town Attorney, and we talked about the possibility of doing a Welcome to Riverside improvement on the traffic circle in the landscape area in the front. There's plenty of green space there. We thought it'd be something nice to enhance it. We could do a beautiful sign with some landscaping around it that we would maintain, that the town would not have to maintain. So that's some further thought. When you look at, and do we have the elevations? We have computer simulations that we previously submitted to the board, and when you look at the enhanced architecture that we're doing, as well as the enhanced architecture of the canopy itself, it really makes for a handsome presentation that you have a canopy with a roof line to match the building roof line as well as the doggy dormers. And we have said numerous times in numerous correspondence to planning staff and the chair that if there are any other architectural or landscaping enhancements that the board is looking for relative to the site, we are more than happy to discuss them. We haven't received any.
Okay. My last question to you, which is kind of wild, is that are you considering putting any EV stations here?
EV stations. So
Because
the town code does.
Some of the gas stations now have them.
Yeah, as a company, because remember, we're representing the developer, the Sleepoy family that has owned the property since 1965. So with regard, because I can tell you that I've done some work for 7-Eleven themselves, the corporation, that at this time they've not made a formal decision relative to adding electric vehicle charging stations at their sites. It is something that they're definitely considering, but they haven't made a final decision. And I don't believe right now the town code requires it, right? But I do know that many of the town codes are starting to do it. I'm an EV owner myself, so I would like to see it.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. All right, as long as it's being considered, that's important.
Yeah.
In the rendering, you have the there's like a little bus station there, and it looks like there's a hint of some street trees, which would actually be nice for this roundabout intersection, because it is such a hard, like, sunny space. So if we are bringing more pedestrians in, that could be something to add into the landscaping plan in front, some larger trees that could provide shade.
Sure. Sure. I think that's something we could definitely address at site plan level. That wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, one on each corner. We're just commenting about signage, how many 7-Eleven.
They're little, but there's lots.
There's a lot of them.
Right.
Well, these were all
Would you
site plan issues.
clarify, there was one on each side of the canopy, right?
Mhm.
The sign, but you've eliminated, right? You're not proposing
Right.
each canopy. And I say this because there's going to be a monument sign or whatever it is, right in the corner of the property, something on the building. I don't think the canopy needs to have three signs on each side.
Yeah, I apologize. So the rendering was done prior to when we made
Gotcha,
that
gotcha,
revision.
gotcha.
So just
Just wanna
to
make sure
clarify
they
for the
were-
record, yes, we have limited the amount of signage and the amount of, to some extent, some of the colors that are being used. So, but we revisit that at site plan level again.
And to the point about street trees, kind of what ties in with the traffic and the sight lines, so planning
Right.
ahead for that now is, it's a critical juncture.
Yeah, and what we've done in other locations is we've clustered the street trees too, because where there is a line of sight issue like you're talking about, rather than spreading it out and putting 3 trees over a frontage of say 150 feet, we find a location, that doesn't affect sightline distance at all, maintains the safety of the access points, and allows, to get to the number of street trees, but just not spread them out, and they look better that way too. Sure.
Any other questions? Anthony?
All right, so, Mr. Carmody is going to work on his final report. I'm going to take everything that we've got now, have all the information we need. Remember, I initially prepared a secret document for declaration previously. Obviously, I'm going to amend what we're doing, and we'll go through it next time. I'll make sure the board gets it long before the meeting, and applicant will also get anything I prepared before the meeting as
Are
well.
we looking 2 weeks down the road or?
We're looking 2 weeks down the road for the next meeting, yeah.
We would appreciate that, just so the board members understand. We understand, the vagaries of, trying to get some of these things done, especially dealing with an outside consultant. But it's been very difficult to get to this point with the outside consultant. And I note that the comments were dated yesterday, and we have been asking for this final report for several months now. We're now through it. I'm very happy that we're moving forward again. So that's why 2 weeks would be ideal.
But we need the report from you.
You'll
next
have it
week.
a week before.
Yeah, because,
Okay.
so we have time to digest it.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Jeff. We'll move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to add one thing. At this point, because this application has been so heavily vetted by the department, by the board, by the outside consultant, and by the outside agencies of many different governmental levels, we don't see that any further SECRA review would be necessary and come up with any additional results other than what we've done because of the extensive level of review that we've gone under. It's a conversation that I've had with Mr. Trezza, and we've documented several times to the chair. So,
And by the way, the board, you submitted the package of information in June. It's been distributed to the board as well.
Fantastic. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a nice day.
You too.
Thanks.
Just so everyone knows, 17 is off the agenda.
Okay.
Anthony, you want to take Farrell number 4, Farrell Butler Butter Lane?
I'll put it up on
On the screen. Okay, Anthony. Is Carl Benincasa here?
I got him on Zoom. He's on Zoom.
Oh, he was here.
Yeah, he was. So the board knows the properties on Butter Lane. It's the two properties you see in the aerial. That's a little reminder of the level of disturbance that's happened over the years. We're familiar. This project, it's LI 40 zoned piece of two pieces of property. It's roughly 4.7 acres among the two of them. The application that we're doing today is for the subdivision component. The subdivision is to create 3 lots. You'll see the back lot on that map has a 10-foot wide flag strip for which they received zoning relief. They're keeping the lots separate, even though they're part of a larger site plan for mini storage. And they'll each contain mini storage. They are going to be separate properties. So the board is aware of that. We're just dealing with the 3-lot subdivision at this point, and then we will do a staff report and a resolution for the site plan where the bulk of the requirements are going to be imposed. Because that's where we're going to be dealing with implementing the cross-access between the sites and perhaps some shared parking. But here, this is just for the 3-lot subdivision, so I have a resolution in front of you just to approve, to review this one. So the first page there, it's a project description. Pre-app report was done for this March of 2022. The zoning board granted the necessary relief for this back in 2021, actually. This was a type 1 action under SECRA. And this board was lead agency and issued a negative declaration.
Excuse me, Anthony, can I ask? Sure. Maybe you've already done it, I haven't read it through. That they identify each parcel of this subdivision with the size of them?
Yes, you're right, Jackie.
You know, because we have just 4.7 acre parcel, but
it
consists of 3.
They should say lot 1 is this, lot 2 is
exactly.
that.
All right, so you'll do that?
You've asked before.
Lot 2, lot 3.
Yep. The first page. Health Department approval was granted. Back in March, you deemed this application complete and had a hearing in April. Again, the Health Department approved, subject to their own covenants and restrictions, which is pretty typical. I seem to be repeating some of my whereases, so I will have to fix this. Again, it was a type 1 action. This board was lead agency and issued a neg deck in November of 2023. The next whereas just talks about what relief was granted by the zoning board. So it was a lot with relief and a flag strip relief. Incidentally, that flag strip is only 10 feet wide, but this is going to be a common access for all lots. We're not going to have 3 access points. So that 10-foot wide strip is being augmented by an additional 10 feet of easement on the property.
Can we have it up there, I think?
Yeah, I think I have the map. Just give me a second.
Kristen?
Oh, it's hot in here today. You can see this, Jackie.
I know.
All right. You see it, Jackie, now up here?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So here, this is what I'm talking about. You have a 10-foot wide strip here, so additional easement will be put on what I believe is lot 3.
Each lot, right?
Yeah, just to make it, and then we'll have one access point for all 3 lots, which is what you want. Let's see. Oh, because of the interconnected parking lots and curb cuts, this subdivision will require cross-access that also allows for shared parking. So as part of this subdivision, we're going to have some general cross-access, for all 3 sites, just because that's what you want. And then we are going to assume shared parking between the sites, but the actual shared parking will be done at the time of site plan, because then you would put in covenants from the site plan that says these 2 sites are sharing X amount of parking and so forth. But we wouldn't do that until we got the site plan, but the subdivision will just set the stage for it. I didn't finish the next whereas, but it's in the Aquifer Protection Overlay District, but there's no vegetation on the property. So
not anymore.
Yeah, well, they disturbed the ground. There wasn't much, in the way of trees. The next whereas I got to finish was just the hearing date. The next whereas is the Planning Commission, which determined this is a matter for local determination, so I just have to put in the dates. The town engineer provided comments, which go on into the next page, which this will be incorporated as conditions of approval. The Office of Fire Prevention on the bottom of this page and then the next page gave their standard requirements. They do note they are asking for another fire hydrant on this property. They, incidentally, because they're looking at both a subdivision and a site plan, you'll see that the comments from both the engineer and the fire prevention are going to be the same because they were looking at the same map. So,
But I believe there's a hydrant very close by.
there is one right down here.
Right there.
So, I keep it in. This is what the recommendation was.
Okay, yes, absolutely.
Should the applicants, want something different, they could always.
They can deal with
they can
the
deal
Suffolk
with it.
County, yeah.
And again, they always say they will also address anything else at the time of a building permit because it's got to go to the fire marshal then as well. When you have construction plans, because they're going to make sure, exit lights are, in the right location. Highway Department just says that drainage will be necessary, and obviously our engineer is going to review it. No comments were received from the Conservation Board, but we do know there's no wetlands or anything near the site, so no jurisdiction there, and there's no vegetation. And nothing from the Trails Advisory, but this is a commercial site, and there does not appear to be any trails that would connect through here. Utilities will be underground. Just so you know, I got to finish this one too. Non-residential subdivisions are not subject to the park requirements, so the applicant's not required to pay a park fee. So then the next part is the resolution to approve this 3-lot subdivision, subject to a number of conditions. One, verification that all non-compliant commercial activities have ceased. It was put on the record. I wasn't here for the hearing, but I believe Mr. DeSessa said everything was going to be stopped within 30 days. Last time I was out there, things were being removed, and so before we sign off on this, we'll make sure everything has been addressed as was put on the record. Final map changes. Again, show the 10-foot wide access easement on lot 3. It's not shown on the subdivision, so we want this extra 10-foot wide so we know where, with the meets and bounds description, so we know where the easement is. Postal delivery addresses for each lot. They have to amend a map notation because the zoning board granted relief, so that has to be referenced on there. The next note is just regarding the legal documents that affect this property, so we always put a note on there. It says show the location of the fire hydrant per the Southampton Office of Fire Prevention, and I'll leave it to the applicant if they would like a different outcome. And then there are structures on this property, so they should be shown on the final map and indicated if they're remaining or removed. 3 is about the survey monuments that have to be installed. Common driveway and drainage plans for the common driveway access, acknowledgement of the receipt of the subdivision regulations, installation of the fire protection facilities as required, installation of the utilities underground, and submission of the proof of contract, submission of covenants, no lot line modifications without planning board approval, site plan approval required for all lots. No further subdivision of any lots, retention of stormwater on site. The next 2 bullets regard the no new utility poles, and everything has to be installed underground. A common driveway or common access for lots 1, 2, and 3. A cross-access agreement for future site plans, and a shared parking agreement for future site plans. So those would be the covenants. Submission of a cross-access agreement for all 3 lots. Submission of a common access driveway easement, the title certification, mortgage consent if applicable, town attorney approval of the legal documents, and then submission of the Mylars and paper prints for signature. When you get to the site plan part, that's where you'll start seeing there's going to be a ton of conditions because
yes.
that's where the bulk of the work gets done.
Exactly, this is just subdividing
Yeah.
the parcel. Carl, your name for the record and any comments?
Carl Bennett, House 860 Montauk Highway, Waterman, New York. For the applicant, I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person. I was earlier. The schedule was a bit tight today. Anthony, I would just note on the final map changes, section 2, there was a revision to the variance because we went from 4 lots to 3.
Yes. I have
And that was done in September, on September 7th of 2023 by variance number D023105. So I'll just note that one as well.
Thank you, Carl. I appreciate that. I forgot they did that.
No problem. And it's fine with the common driveway cross access. You want that as part of the subdivision? And as part of the site plan, you want it on both?
Well, we're going to get the commons right. Yes, we'll get it on both. As part of this, we're going to do the cross-access legal documents with the subdivision. The covenants are just noting that there will be shared parking among sites as part of commercial site plans. The specific numbers as it relates to where parking is going will be done at the time of site plan. We just want to make sure that the three properties understand that there will be site plans so no one can say you can't park here, you can't park here, in the event that these properties change ownership or anything like that.
They're separately owned.
Yeah, we have no problem. I just wanted to clarify.
Yep, I appreciate it.
And I think that's it for my only comments. Oh, you wanted to show the easement on the site plan, right? So
On the subdivision.
On the subdivision.
Yeah.
We'll update that. Okay. That's fine, thank you.
Any other questions? Anthony? Okay, I have a motion to approve a report
Motion.
by George, second by Gloria, and all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 5 in favor, 1 absent. Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Carl. So number 5, 21 Columbia.
We don't have access to Columbia.
I'll ask review this. So the board remembers this. This is Richard Bartels, the attorney for the applicant. This was the Columbia Avenue subdivision where you have the landlocked parcel outside of the old file map, and then the smaller property on Columbia Avenue. We've been through this twice. So I'm just going to direct the planning board to the changes that I made as we per last time. Just so you know, any reference to Fairview Avenue as an option has been removed from the report since abandonments have been done there already. So, but if you go to, first of all, the bottom of page 2, I'm going to read it because there was a question about the park requirement. We have a tendency to use a lot of the same language from reports. So I changed the park analysis as requested. I just want to read it real quick. An analysis of the town's park resources show that many residential communities throughout the town are lacking in neighborhood-scale parks that provide recreational opportunities to the residents. The town's long-range planning goals seek to increase the number of parks within residential neighborhoods, to mitigate impacts on existing park and recreational resources, and to partially address overall impacts associated with increased development. New residential development increases demand for parks, and the planning board must account for this increased demand as part of the subdivision review process. Accordingly, pursuant to 292-35B of the town code, all subdivisions are subject to a park requirement, which may be satisfied as follows. And the first option is that they provide a park on site, or they pay a park fee. And so in here, that's what I outlined. And then on page 3, the last part of that is that the planning board finds that a park of 13,690 square feet wouldn't be sufficient to address the needs, and that there's no comprehensive planning recommendation for a park. So in this case, we would take the park fee. So that was the analysis. And then if you go to, on the recommendations on page 6, recommendation number 1, on the second paragraph, the first talks about, remember, we had all this information that was put on record indicating that they didn't have any legal rights to Columbia Avenue. If you look at the second paragraph, what I said was, because the applicant did provide information, I said the applicant, however, believes they do in fact have legal rights to utilize Columbia Avenue and have submitted court cases in New York that have addressed the issue of landlocked property and rights of access. Further, the applicant also asserted that the 2 lots under consideration have in fact merged under New York State town law, whereby undersized lots that share a common boundary and are owned by the same person or entity can merge. As a result, the applicant argues the landlocked parcel and the road frontage parcel are now a single lot, and therefore access from Columbia Avenue is permissible. And I just note that this issue should be settled prior to proceeding with the final application.
Can you just add a date? Have in fact merged. I know we haven't.
Oh, yeah, I could do that.
So the contention now is that the small lot shown in red on Columbia Avenue is technically merged with the larger landlocked
The
parcel.
larger one, yeah.
If I may interject, Richard Bartel for the applicant.
Right.
Previously, I offered the board, and it's in the record someplace, that these lots merged in 1951. I gave the title history. Both to the board.
1951. So that's the date.
Yes.
Thank you.
And there's a particular month and day, which I don't remember right now.
But like I said, I made removed anything reference to Fairview. They've been abandoned. All the other issues have been discussed last time and remain the same. And so I recommend adopting this report at this point.
So you've taken out any reference to Fairview because it's not part of the equation.
It's not part of the equation.
It does not exist, essentially, right?
Where's Fairview in that now?
It's hard, because abandonments have happened, so it sort of still shows up here.
Yeah.
But this is not a road. It's this here, actually.
It goes, as he's going back and forth with the hour, it goes across like that.
Right, yeah.
What used to be Fairview.
The north
They
side.
show the first half of it already being abandoned.
I remember the second half being.
Yeah.
So are there any questions? We've really discussed this and your papers were
The only
pretty
thing I would
complete.
add is that we're hopeful for a positive determination from the town attorney that we do have legal access to the landlocked parcel.
And you're in
Columbia.
discussions with Christine Square.
Yes, yes.
Any
Right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I think that's it. Any other questions? So we're adopting the resolution.
Adopting the pre-application report for
Pre-application
21
report
Columbia
by
Avenue.
Gloria, second by Kate. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 5 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 6, Bridgehampton Coral Lot 1.
All right. So this, let me just pull this up here.
This is 275 Narrow Lane.
Yep.
Did everyone see the correspondence that we got?
From Barbara Bornstein.
Yeah, from Barbara Bornstein.
Yeah, okay, good.
Okay, so this is a lot that was part of a subdivision. It was a very complicated subdivision back in the day. I know because I worked on it 20-something years ago. And,
It's still painful.
It's still painful, right?
As he clutches his heart.
And as part of the subdivision, this lot here, which recently had a house constructed on it, has a 50-foot buffer. If you go back and look, there was no vegetation actually on this property at one point, but it was a buffer that was established as part of the subdivision. And so they planted it out. And
Now, this is on the south side of Narrow Lane?
Yes.
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 Yep. A couple of years ago, the owner of the property came in and asked for this 50-foot buffer, covenanted buffer, to be removed. At the time, the planning board agreed to remove the buffer so the property can continue to be farmed, and that they would reinstate the buffer after the property's farming activity stopped. House has been constructed. You can see there's a buffer there, some plantings. And then we got a covenant amendment from the applicant to just eliminate the buffer altogether. Subsequent to that, I received a letter from Barbara Bornstein, and I spoke to her actually. It's very clear in her letter there. She strongly objects to elimination of the buffer. At the time, views and, all sorts of things you have when you're discussing these buffers. So I have the applicant's attorney here. We had the hearing, so we're at a point where we have to make a decision. I've already discussed with Tim. This board's not inclined to eliminate the buffer. If we're talking about an area so we could plan for some, like what's in here, I don't have any issues reducing it to 25 feet. I think we could accomplish proper buffering in there, from the residents and everything, on a reduced setback if the board's inclined to do it.
Yeah, you had included something in the packet on this application which talked about farming.
And maybe that was the old,
I think that statement was the old one. I saw what you're talking about.
because that confused me.
It confused
Barbara's
me when I
letter-
saw it. After I read it, I
Barbara's letter
said,
that there's a house, and you're saying, no, it's farms.
after I read it, I
was,
said
yeah.
they're going to think that I'm
Right.
crazy. So,
Yeah, but, no, I had a question.
yeah, no, you picked up on it. That's correct.
Well, I think certainly a 25-foot buffer, rather than no buffer, is the way to go, so.
I have Mr. McCullough.
Mr. McCully?
For the record, Timothy S. McCully, of Council of the Burke and Sullivan, 41 Meeting House Lane, Southampton. What I'd like to do instead, the problem with the buffer is it talks about natural vegetation, and there was no natural vegetation.
True.
So my clients, I'm not totally opposed to the 25 feet, but what do I do in the 25 feet?
What's there? Trees? Planted trees? They can.
No, but let me tell you, that's not what it really looks like.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Maybe, yeah.
If you got a street view,
I do.
what we would do is outside the 25 feet, we would put a line of abrevieties. That's not it.
Oh, that's a street. Oh, is that old?
Before
That's
it was
old.
built.
That's what I have.
Hold on. Let me see if I can find it. Those pictures should be in your file because I gave them to you at the public hearing.
We never quite understood why that buffer was put on that particular lot.
You know,
right?
it's like I said, we got some information from Barbara, but if you go back and you're looking at the old, there was certainly no.
Well, if it was farmed, of course, it wouldn't be woods.
That's right. No, that's saying that with the use of the word natural vegetation, there was indication that habitats and everything.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's accurate. Is all I'm saying. Is that
I mean,
it
this
sounds
is-
like the buffer was more meant to just create a buffer
street.
from potential. Yeah, some type
And
of.
my client they intend to buffer the property, so even if you eliminate the buffer, I would agree to do a covenant that says we have to maintain a certain screening, 10-foot arborvitae, but something like that, so it's totally screened all the time. My problem is when you get into natural in this area and it floods down there on Narrow Lane, so, and this is the only lot that has 50-foot buffer, so I'm just trying to figure out.
Well,
why-
we're thinking of reducing it to 25, but it needs to be a buffer, and I think you need to have some natural hardbush blueberry or some.
Yeah,
And what you're showing there is
some
natural, it's
vegetation.
eastern red cedar, right?
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
guess, right?
That's
not
what would
been
grow
planted.
in a vacant lot.
Yeah, I mean,
That's what would
I'll
grow.
I'm so tired of seeing arborvitae
Right.
fences. That's
So I think what we were saying is that let's augment that natural red cedar with some natural vegetation, and Seth can give you a list of
what's a plant.
plants to go there.
And then if he wants to put arborvitae behind it,
That's fine.
that's fine. But
Well, that's what we would do, but it would be outside the 25.
Yes.
We don't want to get anything too tall. There's a common driveway coming out. The sight lines are not terrible, but they're not the greatest.
Yeah.
So you don't want to get a
That's-
situation where
that's an
somebody has to
interesting
get
road.
too far out. So,
Okay.
all right, so where are we? 25 feet?
25 feet.
And the
natural
abrevieties
vegetation.
can go behind that, of course, because it'll be out of the
But the
25.
natural vegetation needs to be augmented
Within a 25.
within the 25-foot buffer with some
Well, all right, before we,
native species.
all right, before we augment it, we're gonna have to identify some of the dead and weeds that are there.
Yeah.
Take that out and then augment it, and I'll meet with Seth and you'll get me
Yeah,
with
Seth would do it.
them. All right,
Okay,
I'm good.
thank you.
So then I would just recommend approving the covenant amendment to reduce it to 25 feet, subject to a new planting scheme.
landscape.
Planting scheme. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Motion
Okay.
That was
by George, second by Tom. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions,
Okay,
5 in favor.
we didn't
one
even have to
absent.
cut the
Can you
baby
pass
in
some
half.
sugar there?
Sugar.
Just so the board knows, number 7.
Before you pass it.
200 West Montauk Highway is an extension of the action deadline until July 25th.
To July 25th.
Sorry, where are we?
Number
I was
seven.
too busy passing food.
That's okay.
Number 7, an extension to July 25th. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Brian, second by Kate. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 5 in favor, 1 absent. Okay, Claire, loaves and fishes.
Loaves and fishes. I think Carl Benacosta is still on Zoom for us.
Okay,
In his echo chamber.
Carl, are you there?
He doesn't like me. I mean, I could distribute it. Would you like me to distribute it? You guys are very familiar with loaves and fishes.
Yes.
So if you want to do that, it's the deadline's for the next meeting, and
Oh,
it most
okay.
likely will be extended because we need some information from the town engineer.
Okay, so do we want to deem it incomplete?
No, no, no.
No?
We could just no.
Just
The
distribution.
deadline's next meeting, so I'll
Okay.
distribute. If he didn't come, he was on the agenda.
I just texted him.
Let me distribute it. You can always come back to it before the end of the meeting. Okay?
Yep.
So basically, no action today.
No action unless he comes back. There's 5 copies.
Thank you.
So what's the next item?
Seth.
Seth?
Yeah.
That would be me.
Number 9,
Site
449 Water
disturbance.
Mill Town Road.
449 Watermill Tower, exactly, described property. I made a mistake by putting CR 40, it's CR 200. Brian Acosta's here. I'm just presenting them with the survey and the revegetation plan. There
Thank you.
There
Thank you.
are.
CR 200, you said?
Yeah, CR 200, yes. So this, you okay?
Mhm.
Let me take a seat and navigate the system over here. This came in on the 22nd of March. And immediately, as you can see from the plan, it was very complex. There's an old single-family dwelling on that property. It's 47,480 feet, located in the Aquifer Protection Overlay District. The clearing at that point with the old house, or as it stood when the application came in, was exceeding the 50% mark by 3,081 square feet. I asked the applicant to please provide me with the current existing conditions and separate the proposed work that was going to be done after the demolition of the single-family dwelling. At which point,
Seth, I'm sorry, I know you said you made a mistake and you, what is
CR
this?
200,
So it's 5 acre zoning.
Yep.
And,
and it's 47,000 square, it's a 1 acre lot,
okay,
a little over an acre. Yes,
and is this pre-existing then?
it's a described property, yeah.
Okay, so then we revert back to a 40,000 square foot.
I follow the table
Okay.
for 33067, and I go by the square footage
Okay.
and got the 50%.
Thank you, I just needed that in my head.
Of course. So with the being able to look at both the existing conditions and the proposed work, it was noted that the proposed work would add additional clearing of 2,714 square feet of additional clearing. At which point, I discussed this with the applicant, and I also discussed this with the Conservation Department, the division that is, with Marty Shea, who volunteered to go and take a look at the site as well. After which, he was able to provide me with some recommendations. He was able to hone in on the native list, which, per the process, I then proceeded to give to the applicant. I'm sorry, let me get the photo up here.
So they can have up to 50% clearing?
Yes.
Correct.
And we are where now?
We're at 56 and a half. And this was a condition my client inherited when he purchased the property. And he's looking now to redevelop it. And as a part of this plan, we're looking to bring the property into compliance. But it's interesting grading here, and with
Yeah, I think
the
it's
setbacks, the
quite
front yard setback, it kind of pushes everything so far back on a small lot that that's part of what's resulting in the clearing we have to do. We benefit from being able to continue the roughly 80-foot setback from the street. But if this were a 1 acre zoning, we'd only have a 60-foot setback, and it would kind of keep all the improvements up closer, reducing some of the disturbance and allowing us to improve. Propose.
Can you give us your name?
Yes, Brian Locascio with the Adam Miller Group, attorney for the applicant. But everything said is correct. Yep.
Let Seth finish his
Absolutely.
presentation.
Right, so having visited the site in April, I noticed that it was a very unique site, and the topography, as you can see, it's rather a bathtub shape, and I was afraid that maybe I would miss some of the native species because it was very steeply sloped on either side, and I thought perhaps meeting Marty out there, or Marty decided to go on one of his trips, he would look at it, and I found it interesting that Marty had raised his recommendation, and what he impressed upon me was the preservation of the area to the south. You can't see, here's being the topography. The area to the south is owned by the town. This is a town owned area here. So all of that is preserved to the south. And we agree that preserving anything along that would help to sustain the ecological processes in that unit to the south. This was brought to the applicant in writing through memos and discussed. We have met on several occasions, and I have yet to we haven't really been able to change that proposed additional clearing on the south side. However, the applicant has conceded some areas to the north, that being, again, fairly well naturally forested to the north. I guess, so it wasn't the standard procedure to bring a site that's over-cleared to begin with and then proposing more. The applicant was hoping to bring this before you because I was out of options with going back and forth and hoping to bring it within without proposing more clearing.
So can you tell us why, if it's over cleared 50%, why you would want to add to that?
But we're not. We're bringing the property into compliance. It's just a result of the construction. There has to be some additional clearing done to situate the house. This house has been fully engineered, designed, or always we're working with the confines. It's an undersized lot. It's a constrained lot from a setback standpoint and from the grading standpoint, but the applicant did design a house, and the end result is a property meeting the required limits of clearing. But because the property is currently over-cleared, here we are.
Sheet
So
2 is the proposed.
That's the revegetation plan, yeah.
Right, so it has to be revegetated.
Which, yeah, and you have a plan before you, and that's certainly what we've always proposed. There's never any indication. I mean, otherwise we revegetate now and then rip it up, and that just seems counterintuitive.
Can you kind of paint the picture, right? You're saying it's 56.5% cleared now.
Correct.
And then you're going to bring it to what level of clearing?
Percentage-wise,
and then you're going to bring it back to 50%,
I
just
have
so
it.
we can
Yep.
get an
Hold
idea
on,
of the
pull the
expansion
survey.
and contraction.
Existing is 3,081 as it stands. The total with the proposed work would be 5,795 square feet of
Can you
of
quickly do the
extra
percentage
clearing.
math on that?
I can
so
do it.
56.5 to
That gets us to 29,495 square feet of proposed clearing.
Which is 62.2% clear.
Which is 12% over
Yes.
the 50%. Well, that's
So
substantial.
existing plus proposed would be 62.2.
Right.
But it's 56 now.
Yes.
Correct.
So it's a 6-point difference.
And then we are then restoring that 12% to bring it to 50.
so that's the absolute minimum that has to.
That's the absolute minimum.
Can they do better?
I mean, if you
So
look at the
not
site, there's
get
not
to
really much
16.
more they can do. They acknowledge they're going to have no yard. It's really a house and a pool.
Can we see the?
We're closing off one of the curb
Right,
cuts.
But no one tells people to build houses this size, Brian, you know? If you have a small lot, build a smaller house.
I mean, the zoning allows for this, though.
You
This
know,
is-
it's not logical.
I understand, but this house has been fully designed. The applicant went through considerable costs.
I understand you're representing him, but
Yep.
I'm also saying what the facts are.
I would like to also bring to light the fact that the grading on this property, if you look at the southeast corner, it sits at 64 feet. They are proposing a finished basement throughout the entirety of the proposed two-story dwelling. This basement will span from 64 down to the bottom, which is a 50-foot. So we're going to be they're proposing cutting 14 feet down from the elevation 64, but maintaining a limit of clearing about 12 feet away. I raised this issue just looking at it from a standpoint of making that cut to put in a finished basement.
Is the finished basement a basketball court?
From what I understand from the building application, yes, it's a 20-foot high basement.
Wow. So I was going to ask that question. What is the finished first floor ground floor elevation?
I don't
There
know.
is a grading plan, as far as I
what
know.
we have here doesn't say what the first floor or the ground floor elevation is on this. But I did note the fact that there's like a 20-foot drop from the bottom of that thing back up to what's, not even the top of the hill. But
I do have a grading plan they provided to me. It's mostly specific to the series of retaining walls that they will be building around the perimeter to hold in the.
Because you've got steep slopes here, right?
Because you have steep slopes. It's my understanding that the bottom of the basement, please correct me if I'm wrong, would be 50 feet or 52. The top would be the southeast corner at 64. So how a 20-foot basement wall is put in there, if it's 64, that would be down to 44. But again, I'm not an engineer. Brian, you would have
Yeah,
to.
I mean, that would be between the architect and the engineering department. I'd have to get you more information on that.
oh wait, I might see it here. It says proposed two-story building, first floor 64 feet. So you're at a 64-foot elevation, if that's correct. I'm not sure.
The first floor elevation, from what I understand, is that 64 is the first floor. So everything would then branch off from there. At any rate, point being, looking at the soil profile, we have
That doesn't make
6.5
I'm
feet of
confused.
sandy loam with gravel, and then from then on, it's mixed sand with gravel. I was very concerned about the limit of clearing being 12 feet off of that basement. At which point, we're going to be clearing that entirety of the southern portion to get the boom truck in to put the concrete, and that's my reservation.
Like it's not realistic,
I don't.
Well,
because you got a lot of dirt, you got a lot.
very impacted.
My inclination would be to say to work within the existing clearing.
So would you like us to hold the application, re-veg, then obtain a building permit and clear? So I don't think there'd be anything preventing that. This applicant came here in good faith to present the plan that's going to bring the property that they inherited over clearing into compliance. There's
Okay, Claire.
Brian,
so-
I don't think you understand. The planning board has only one provision in the code to provide a waiver. And they've held this to the point where you have 56% right now, right? We'll just say that. To do anything more than that, the only provision the planning board's ever done is to buy credits. You could then keep that 62% with the credit forever, that you're preserving something else. And that's the threshold, is that the planning board finds that they are still having that resource be preserved. When you take that natural vegetation out, you're hurting the APOD. You'll never, it'll take 25 years to get that vegetation back to something else, and we don't have that time with the water. We have to protect the water now.
Right.
So we definitely have this mechanism for you. If you feel strongly about they want this engineered house, the credit's out there. It does cost money, but it does keep the resource, and the planning board's done this. Now I can count on my fingers. It's been almost 15, 20 times for this kind of situation where the site is constrained.
Right.
So
do you want to go back and
I'll have to, I'm
reconfigure
going to speak with my
Talk
applicant,
to
so
your-
just, we'll
yeah.
carry it over.
Okay, so no.
I mean, this is maybe a quick question. Like these areas here, when you're looking to revegetate.
Yep.
I mean, I looked at the vegetation on the side, and that seems to be pretty mature, natural vegetation right now. You're proposing to clear that out in order to do construction and then revegetate it with.
Let's pull that out.
On the northeast and north edges of the
We're
property.
proposing, so this is what we're proposing to clear, this yellow.
Okay.
So our curb cut, we're filling in 2 existing driveways, one which actually, there's a small triangle piece of land that isn't even ours, so I don't even know that that's a viable access point, because we don't have road frontage on this point. There's a little triangle of land, but we're clearing for our driveway along the south here, and this small area in the north where we're putting in for the retaining wall. You know, the existing vegetated rear portion lot is really where the bulk of the existing vegetation on this lot is being untouched. And then our planting plan, we show you where we're restoring from what's being disturbed.
Yeah, so I mean, the point they're making is like when you do the math on, adding and subtracting value to the aquifer, it doesn't matter about square footage and the inventory of things that are in there. If you have mature oaks and you're replacing it with another native species that's a 4-inch caliper tree, the value doesn't end up the same. So, I think the solution that you're proposing is probably the most viable. If the client wants to move forward with this design and over clearing, then they just need to provide that ecological benefit by offsetting money into the system to keep other lands preserved of equal value.
Or revegetate the lot.
No. It's not the same value. It's like you're gonna take away $1 from me and then I'm gonna give you a quarter.
I understand.
It's not the
So,
same.
Claire, is there a list of properties that can be purchased?
I know where to get them from. I've been down that road before.
Brian, could I ask you
Absolutely.
one question on the re-veg plan? I guess Marty had expressed interest or concern or whatever about the southern end of the property. Where the sanitary system is, it looks like there's no re-veg there. I assume that's a retaining wall or
Correct.
A fence or something. That the location of the sanitary system is what's precluding that vegetation from coming all the way across.
Correct.
That kind of misses what Marty's trying to get at.
That area to the south, actually, they had
I'm not here.
the leaching
This section doesn't have.
tanks and pools were originally put under a revegetation area we discussed, and they had pulled it out, so that was placed there. However, those are outside of the current limit of overclearing, so it was part of the driveway, that area where they're going to be putting the IA system.
Just along the southern end, maybe I'm misreading this, but
This
it looks
one
like
is-
you've got revegetation across 3/4 of the southern side, but the quarter where the sanitary system is, you've got nothing.
Back in
I guess
this
that's
area.
in there.
That is
Just
because
the
it is
natural
that's natural.
is
This-
there.
This area here is natural, yes.
That stays.
Yes, it stays, not part of it. It stays.
Seth, I think you described this originally as a bowl.
Yes.
So this house is going to be surrounded by a retaining wall?
Well, it will appear from the center of the bowl to be like 3 stories. It would be a finished basement, buried basement, exposed on the inside of the bowl, And then, yeah, as you work your way out,
So at the back, what
retaining walls.
they've done, they've got this house up at 64, and you go down to the back deck. There's a series of steps going down. The pool level patio is actually 12 feet below the
street.
12 feet
Yeah.
below the level of
Okay.
the first floor. So it kind of drops down through a series of steps going down.
I didn't have that.
Okay, so we're leaving it with, you're going to be exploring the purchase of,
Yeah, I mean, let's just leave it open. I got to speak with the team, and I will be in touch with Seth.
Yeah, I would like to explore how we're going to determine what level, how are we going to determine how much clearing is going to take place? Because as it stands like now, I think I expressed my reservations that the limit of clearing is
already
maxed.
exceeded. It's already exceeded.
It's already,
Yeah.
But I
So-
think what you're saying is
the
that.
proposed work
like,
might be more than
might be
27.
larger.
Yeah.
And that's, I think that's an engineering, it's a top
That's
out
the engineer,
question.
okay. All right. So,
Thank you.
And as Claire said, there's a mechanism if you want to.
Table it.
To keep.
Yep,
what
yes.
You've got, you
Yep,
know, you
understood.
know the drill.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. So there's no action on this?
tabled, I guess?
Or do we have to go to table? So.
So we're going to number 10.
Thank you.
Thank you. Brenna, this is for completeness, John Peter Lawrence.
This is a two-lot subdivision on Noyak Road, 2899 Noyak.
You have one, right?
It's 3D incomplete.
It is incomplete. I could go into it a little bit if you'd like, or we could wait till the next.
Just a little
session.
bit.
Yeah, it's a two-lot subdivision. We're considering completeness. The parcel's currently improved with single-family residential and some accessory structures. The map that's before you depicts wetlands in the upper northeast corner of the lot. It was flagged in March of 2018, I believe, and that flagging needs to be verified. This pre-application was before the board in 2019, I think it was, and enough time has gone by, they need to verify the flag.
Well, reflagging is every 3 years, right?
Yeah, so they need
Yeah,
to
so it's out of
verify
date.
and they need to show the wooded area, so it's incomplete.
Okay.
Until we can get that information. I don't know if you know anyone's here for it, but.
That's it, no, incomplete is fine.
Okay.
So, motion to deem this incomplete
Motion.
by Kate,
Second.
second by George, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, so 4 in favor, 2 absent. Goodman, David Goodman.
This is another two-lot subdivision. It's on the Turnpike in Bridgehampton. It's just north, right next door to that Mickey B's Deli site. This is the lot here, this sort of L-shaped leg. Historically, it was 2 sites that were at one point merged, but
And is that a residence in front?
it is. It's a pretty old residence. I think it dates the late 1800s, if I'm not mistaken, 1870. And it's CO'd for a 2-family home. And they, again, we're considering completeness, that there's some missing information on the subdivision maps and contours, the wooded area, the water supply and septic. I believe the applicant might be here via Zoom. I don't know if you have any questions, if you want to talk about it further. It's incomplete today.
Yeah, well,
so
it's
maybe
incomplete.
Look at
It's
it a little further next time when
Right.
when they come back.
So motion to deem this incomplete by George,
second.
second by Kate, all in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 5 in favor.
I wasn't here to hear it, so I guess
So 4 in favor,
one
1
abstention.
absent, and 1 abstention.
Can we take Kelly Doyle? She's here for the 29 Lawson. So referral from conservation.
29?
No, 29 Lawson. Oh no, the number is
21.
It's number 20.
21.
Ross and, it's
Oh,
just
no,
listed as
21,
Ross and
sorry.
Associates.
Ross and
21.
Associates, lot 14.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, Claire?
You need something on the area?
Yeah, 29 Lawson, I think.
29 Ross and Associates.
Copies or do you want me to put?
Oh, you have
copies.
copies?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Okay. Yeah, I want to.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Kelly Doyle, Assistant Town Attorney.
Kelly Doyle.
This is I'll just give these to you.
That's a bit, sure.
A referral from the Conservation Board. We just had an issue come up with an application and wanted to make sure that the Planning Board had no issue with an approval of a walkway. It's a access stairway down a bluff. The property's on Little Peconic Bay. And property's on Little Peconic Bay, and the reason this came up, there's a declaration that was filed as a condition of subdivision approval, and it states that certain lots are supposed to share access, and this particular lot, the planning board had said that they could keep their own access way, but it happened to be located in a different location. So now the property owner wants to rebuild the stairway, but rather than, it used to be closer to the property line with the neighbor, but now they want to build it centrally, which would be preferable to the Conservation Board in terms of just the layout of the land and the bluff. So the Conservation Board had no issue with that, but they just wanted to make sure, pursuant to this declaration, that no approvals, or if the Planning Board needed to approve the reconstruction of the stairway in a different location.
So can you just read what you've got highlighted?
Sure. So this is paragraph 20 on page 7. So it says, access down the face of the bluff on lots 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16, which is not this lot, shall be only by means of suitable structures located at or near the common lot lines of lots 12 and 13, so 12 and 13 share, and lots 15 and 16, and they would share. Such structures shall be designed and constructed in a manner that will result in the least disturbance to the bluff and must be approved by the Planning Board of the Town of Southampton prior to construction, in accordance with the conservation easement. The existing wooden steps and deck on lot 14 can remain in use. So this is what we're talking about, lot 14. So it appears that it was never contemplated that lot 14 would share because they got to keep their own.
So what I'm seeing there, is that the existing location of the stairs that's kind of shown?
It is now they're rebuilt. They actually have
So
rebuilt
this is
them.
rebuilt?
Yes.
Oh, that's rebuilt.
And this is where they're located now, but they need approval for it.
Do they restore the old location in some way?
But I think the old stairs, they were just falling down. So in the most environmentally sensitive way, they removed them, but they were just dilapidated and falling down. They couldn't use them.
But where was it located relative to the property?
It used to be located, actually I have an aerial. It used to be located, sorry, I only have one copy of this, but
Right here.
it was, yeah, exactly.
Oh, so.
It was closer to the next lot over, and just kind of as an aside, after the declaration was filed as a condition of subdivision approval, these two neighbors happened to make their own private agreement and recorded an agreement that they would share this stairway.
So they've been sharing the stairway?
They had been sharing a stairway.
The one on lot 14.
Right, on lot 14, pretty close to each other. And then they decided to rebuild it. And when the permit first came up, the Conservation Board was not aware of any of these recorded declarations. And then they had to come back for a modification. And that's when a neighbor came in and brought all this to our attention. So we just wanted to know if the planning board had issue with
What's
that.
the access for that other lot?
This one over here,
Yeah.
they do not have one right now,
But they could share with
but they
12.
could share with
So
12.
there are 13 next door.
Mhm. So the intent of the original declaration was for the neighbor to share with the other neighbor.
County.
Right.
Just so they're gonna be cleared up on their CO and stuff, though, they're gonna come and try and amend the covenant before this board, when they're done with that board?
I don't know if they have any intention of coming to, of what they're going to do.
They kinda, I think they have
So
to.
that's why,
So I
Yeah,
think
it says it.
I think it's kind of silence on 14.
No,
Well, it
it
did- no,
says
it says-
specifically it's on the other ones, 14 is not included.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Well, except to the
It's
point where it
because it's
says
supposed to be shared.
14 can remain in use.
It doesn't say that
Yeah.
if it gets rebuilt, planning should
Yeah.
approve it.
I don't know.
I
would
think
want
it says that.
covenant
No.
cleaned up.
It's silent to that.
Yeah.
But they're relocating it as well, so I do think that it's an alteration of the intention.
that was the issue before the conservation
Yeah.
board, so they wanted to make sure to
Yeah.
bring it to your attention at least,
I mean,
so
I
we
don't
can
think
let
it's a
the
big
applicant know.
Is there erosion of the
It doesn't
lot?
seem like it's a big deal.
There's some erosion, I
So
think.
all these staircases that go down, further eroded, yeah.
I mean, when you have nor'easters.
Yeah, I mean, if the issue at the
staircase
beginning
is
was
now
to protect the bluff, then you've just,
Don't put
what's the
staircases.
penalty for just making new construction in an area that you're not supposed to, right, a sensitive area?
What's the conservation board have to say about that?
The conservation board, because they already had an access stairway, there wasn't such an issue with building a new one, because the old one was dilapidated, falling down. But the board did, and Marty Shea, chief environmental analyst, he did go out and he thought the central location was better just based on site conditions. So that was the preferable location, not knowing if that there was any private agreement with the neighbor or,
So what, does the lot 14 neighbor now have no access, or?
They
what's-
don't have access. I believe they might be blocking off their access to share the one that's in the middle now.
Oh.
But that's, I mean, their private agreement was to do that, but that was between the homeowners. But right now, no, they don't. But they theoretically could build their own.
Is this bluff structured, or is it just a plain bluff? There's no.
A natural.
Yeah,
Natural
it's
bluff.
just natural.
Yeah.
Some of those sections on Little Noyak or have hardened structures.
Oh, right.
And then they have stairs.
And then
So this
stairs.
is just a bluff.
Yeah.
Could
So
they just
council,
approve?
you're recommending that
Yeah,
this-
I mean, it's up to the board, but I think that the planning, this has to be addressed in this. So but it sounds like the board would support whatever the conservation board is gonna say. So if the conservation board wants to approve it, subject to them getting an amended covenant recorded against the property, then
Right.
And what does the
And
amended covenant say?
that 14's allowed to have its own.
It does. That's what it said.
I don't think it
This
does.
The last line.
The last line says 14 can keep the existing one.
Keep the existing one, but that's the one that it was supposed to have been shared.
No.
What do you mean?
They have their
Access down the face of the bluff on lots 14, 13, 14, 15, and 16. They're sharing. 14 is sharing with 13 and 15.
No,
No.
13 and 12 are sharing.
12 and 13 were sharing, 15 and 16 were sharing, and 14 allowed to have its own.
Which
Okay,
it
shall
already
be only
had.
means of suitable structures located area.
So it does say it should be at or near common lot lines.
And lots 14
Mhm.
For
and
12 and
16.
13 and 15 and 16, not for 14.
Can you just
Well, actually,
go on to,
It's a little confusing.
13, 14, 15, 12 through 16 and show us. So we could just follow the sentences here. So access down the
Not
face
near
of the
the
bluff
common
on
lot.
lots 14, 13.
Actually, it's 12, 13.
Oh, sorry, 12,
14.
13, 14, 15, and 16 shall be only by
12
means
and
of
13.
suitable
12 and
structures
13.
located near the bottom of the lot lines of 12 and 13, 15 and 16.
13 is the one we're playing.
12
Is
and
that
13 are
13
to
where
the
the
left.
arrow is?
This is the subject.
That's
property.
subject, that's
That's
14.
That's 14, okay.
So all of them
13
should,
and
I read
12
this
are
that all of
below
them
it.
shall only have
12,
near
13.
common lot lines and 12,
So
13.
12,
13,
13 is the one
14,
we raised the
15,
issue.
16.
The one below it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Existing wooden
Yeah.
steps.
So
and
13
down
you raised the issue
lot
because now
14
they
can
won't have
remain
access.
in use,
Right.
But it wasn't meant to build
Right.
a separate one on 14.
Unless they
Next to what, that's lot 12.
And they did have access prior to that.
So are we taking away access to 13 by
13
Oh, so
can build their own
basically,
with 12.
yeah, because they had, them all in line, so they're saying like these two that are sandwiched together would be on the lot line, so there's less, but then 14 wouldn't be able to share with somebody because it was sharing with the other side. It was in the middle of the two
And they could
lots.
keep their little on its own. It looks like 14 has made some inroads down to the beach.
Well, that's a new lot, that's the new one.
That's the new one. That's the one that they're seeking approval for.
I mean, you could view it,
Right.
Chairwoman, you could view it as consistent with the language if that's what you wanted to do.
Yeah, I think council is correct.
Okay.
Rewrite the.
So
That they view the building of that consistent with the intent of the last line of that says that 14 can maintain its own walkway and leave it to the conservation board where they think that's appropriate.
Okay.
I think so. Yeah. Just do a resolve.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm good with
Is that all right,
These
Jackie?
two would
Yeah.
share. These two would share.
You want to see it after it's written or not?
Kelly
So,
has
Claire, you have that language?
Yeah, I'll say resolved plan board discussed at this meeting, reviewed the declaration of covenants and the application for the walkway and finds that it's consistent with the intent and statements of the covenant.
But we have to.
Defers to the conservation board as to appropriate placement of lot 14's access.
And defers, okay. I like it.
Right, everybody comfortable with that? Motion to approve? Motion by Tom, second by George, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 5 in favor, 1 absent.
Thank you so
Kelly.
much.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Okay, let's move on to
Sorry, just cut off.
number 12, Anthony. 1052 Noy Ave, Priya.
Yep.
It was incomplete.
We went through one
It was
and
premise, right, incomplete? Go
There
to
were
David
two
Goodman.
incomplete.
premise.
yeah, both
Did they
incomplete.
deem it incomplete?
Both
You
motions to
abstained,
deem
Gloria.
incomplete.
Okay.
She abstained on
You
that one.
abstained.
Yeah, number 10 was incomplete when you were out of the room,
Yes.
and then number 11 was incomplete when you came back in but hadn't heard the discussion.
Got it, okay.
Got it. Okay.
Number 12, Anthony.
Yep, so we got a property here, this is
We get through.
on Noyak Path, it's south of Middle Line Highway. It's in the 5-acre zoning, CR 200, it has an existing residence on there, tennis courts, some other structures. This property was part of a subdivision done in back in '84, which has a no further subdivision provision that would require amending. The applicant's proposing a 2-lot subdivision of this property. Let's see there. So it would be a lot here, a lot here. We're deeming this incomplete, okay? And I just want to show the board because there's a lot going on here. I can't make sense of it. But if you look, this is 2022. Look at 2024. I have no idea what is going on here. There's also, we're just going to deem this incomplete for a lack of information. I gave a list. It's in the it's in your
Like a
packet.
little race course.
I thought they were putting in like golf stuff or something. I didn't know if they were putting. I couldn't figure it out. So
I think it's a bunch of kids with ATVs.
great.
There's more than them, that's more than 18.
There's like
Yeah.
paving.
So
Okay, so it's incomplete.
it's incomplete.
Motion?
Motion.
Motion by Gloria, second by Kate, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 5 in favor, 1
Hey
absent.
Jackie, just real quick, number 18. We'll just do an extension of 18.
Number 18, Rothman.
Yep, Rothman Dicey. It's just an extension of the submission of the final maps to October 7th, 2024.
October 7th, 2024. Motion?
Motion.
Motion by
Second.
Gloria, and second by Kate, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 5 in favor, 1 absent. You done, Anthony? Kremlin? 28 Enterprise Drive.
Thank you.
This is the 28 Enterprise, it's one of the vacant lots in that Southampton Enterprise Zone subdivision. I believe it's known as Lot 4.
Oh, yes, okay.
It's this lot here in the corner.
Yep.
Up here. We're considering it for completeness and setting the pre-submission conference.
Is it complete?
Well, the
incomplete?
submission requirements are met, yes.
So it's complete?
Yeah, it's complete.
Okay. And what hearing date?
August 8th.
August 8th.
Okay, motion to deem this complete and set a public hearing for August 8th by George.
Second.
Second by Gloria, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 5 in favor, 1 absent. Where's Claire? Milk pail. All right, we'll skip over Claire's. She has 2.
We have.
And she's Blessing Field, not Teresa. So
Sorry.
we have, oh, there you are. Okay, Claire, you're up.
Yeah.
14 Milk pail.
Yeah, so in the back of the oh good. So you can see it better on aerial. There's a building in the back that is partially being used for egg layer housing and received zoning board of appeals
Where's that?
approval. This is the milk pail. You
It's
know
on
the
Zoom.
farm stand
Yeah.
in Watermill. So in the back, near the field, is an existing building that's partially used as egg labor housing right now and partially storage. So they're going to use the whole building for egg labor housing, 7 rooms, and this is a site plan special exception to approve that. They need more information for the town engineer. They are doing a new IA system that'll go into this area to serve the use, but right now we're going to deem it incomplete.
Okay. Motion?
Motion.
By Gloria, second by
Second.
George, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 5 in favor, 1 absent.
And 157 West Montauk Highway, that is
The diner.
the diner property. We are assuming lead agency with this project. I do need a traffic study. You said you wanted one in pre-submission reports, and I haven't received that yet, just so you know. But they know that. We'll assume lead agency, and if they don't have the information for the traffic study, we'll be putting off SECRA. But otherwise, the deadline is the next meeting.
Okay, so assuming lead agency is the action?
That is.
Motion?
Motion.
By Gloria and second by Kate. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 5 in favor, 1 absent.
And then 17, you said it was off. That's fine.
Carl's on the Zoom.
Okay.
18 we've done.
19 is Blessing Field, and it's an extension for 90 days for submission of plans.
What's the date?
October 11th.
To October 11th,
Mm-hmm.
2020.
We put another one on for the 7th. How's that possible?
No, it's just an extension of submission of plans.
So it doesn't have to be a date.
It's
Right.
not
Not
a
an action.
hearing date. Yeah.
So motion on Blessing Fields, or the extension by George, second by Gloria, and all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 5 in favor, 1 absent.
And Carl's here for
Carl, you have 2, right?
Loaves and Fishes.
Oh,
Oh, Carl is
okay.
here for Loaves and Fishes.
Which number was that?
8.
8.
Okay.
Do you just want to briefly go through the reports? I just want to highlight a couple things so
Yep.
that we can process this.
You want to tell Peter to let him in? Peter, can you let Carl in?
And I distributed the report to you
Yes,
guys.
we have
Yes.
a report.
Some plans.
Thank you.
Site plan, landscape plan. These are some building level elevations.
Claire, will you clarify also the 3,000 square foot buildings?
Yes, that was.
Mm-hmm. Good. Yeah, that was a comment.
One of my comments.
So Carl, the deadline's next meeting, so I just wanted to go through this to make sure we've got things lined up. I had given you the town engineer comments, so I spoke to Sean Leonard, and he said he's working on those. And I also gave him a copy of this too. I had emailed this to you. You got it?
Before the holiday.
Yes, I sent you the town engineer. The only other thing, and I'll just say it right now, is this is in the new historic district for Bull's Head, and I forget to do these referrals, so I have not yet referred it to Landmarks. We do need their comments. I think they've done a great job. The building looks really good, and it does seem to match it, but we do need the blessing before a final decision on this.
You do, yeah.
Yeah.
And we found the ARB, they were very happy with it.
Yep.
I'm sure Landmark's not a problem. That's
Right. Yeah, so the referral for that will be unfortunately August. So I think we'd be looking for an August, the second meeting to do the decision on this. But I'll talk to Carl after this. But we'll just go through it now. Everybody's pretty familiar with this site. It's gone through the site plan twice, this iteration. But now the front two buildings will be a retail/office buildings. They're both, one's 3,000 square feet, one's a little slightly less than that. I think it's 29, 50, or 60 square feet. And then the single family residence, which has always been part of the approval. There's cross access to the east. It's located in the HO zoning district. And I cite the plans. Then I just give a little bit of a history. There's been two iterations of the site plan prior to this. So, and also the zoning board of appeals, they updated their approval for this latest site plan in February of 2024. And then it's projects on unlisted action, and the planning board adopted a negative declaration on January 11th, 2024. There was a public hearing, June 13th, comments received, concerns of the pergola connection between the two buildings, concern that the buildings with the pergola exceed the allowable size of the buildings, concern with the single-family residence. The comments were received during the 10-day written comment period as follows. Request the planning board require a covenant for the following matters. Landscaping on the northern eastern boundary lines to be maintained in good living conditions. Notice of any future public hearings, and outdoor lighting shall comply with dark skies. Concern with the connection of the two buildings by a pergola bypasses the size limitations of the HO zoning district. 6,000 square foot building will require 3 apartments. Supposedly one-story building, but looks like windows above. What will basement be used for? Concern with parking for all uses and located in the historic district. So you talked about the concerns raised is that the existing site, the proposed site plan shows a pergola between the two buildings. And that is a pergola that's freestanding, it's not connected to the buildings, it has no roof. And she does cite the comments, if you did read them, it cites the breezeway that was proposed in the Connor original site plan about 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Yeah, the Equinox Gym.
Yeah, but that was an enclosed breezeway. It had a roof. It was connected to the two buildings. It made the two buildings, and that was the judgment of the building department at the time that made them one building. And so you got that interpretation from the building inspector. In this case, there's been an interpretation from the building inspector that the pergola does not constitute a connection between the two buildings.
Did the building inspector actually look at this site, or is that just a general statement?
No, I walked over to the building inspector and I asked him. Yeah.
Can you comment please on the code that there are 2 separate buildings, so it's not combined into 6,000 square feet?
Yes.
Which requires affordable housing units.
So in that code for HO, it says a building. It doesn't say buildings. It doesn't. So the square footage of the single family residence is not added to the 3,000 square foot buildings. It is one building, cannot exceed 6,000 square feet in any case, but if it exceeds 3,000, it requires an apartment for every 1,000 square feet above 3,000.
And that's not the case.
It is not the case.
And it's irrelevant anyway because one is 3,000, one was 29 something, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
3,000 would have triggered
above, it says above 3,000.
3,000, I
Yeah.
understand. I was thinking
Yeah, so
6,000.
3,001
Yeah,
would
I
trigger an
understand.
apartment, yes,
Yeah,
but
I
it's
mean,
3,000.
my gut says the code should be changed because this is an easy way to avoid building.
Actually, the intent of the code is to have smaller buildings that appear residential. So that is the intent of the code. So a building that is, above 3,000 is starting to appear more commercial, and then at 6,000 square feet, it's big, right?
Well, and landmarks will comment on that as well about if the pergola connection makes it appear to, destroy the historic character of the corridor, right?
Which is really helpful. Yeah.
Okay.
And that is the intention of Hamlet office.
It is
To
to
look
appear
residential.
residential in
Okay.
scale.
Right.
That's
Okay.
how residential looks now.
Is there anything the community was concerned about the house turning into a bed and breakfast?
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that would preclude the applicant from doing that without coming to us or getting some sort of?
So the house, it is a single. Go ahead.
Well,
It's a single family residence and will be the CO for a single family residence.
Okay.
If they choose to go for a bed and breakfast, there's a whole series of regulations that would have to have, including that the person who owns the property has to live there. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So they have.
That's just to answer the community's concern.
Mm-hmm. And I definitely understand that. Yeah, exactly. But at the end of the day, that has no vested rights or anything besides being a single family residence. But okay, good. So there's just the referrals. I have them attached. There was no special concerns. Actually, though, the Department of Economic Development and Planning said it was a matter of local determination, and they did. Did I not grab my old copy? My referrals. Grab it.
You talk about encouraging to use green methodologies.
Yeah, so existing vegetation should be preserved was number one. Retain existing vegetation, especially trees, helps preserve the character of the site. Applicants should be encouraged to use green methodologies such as rain gardens and bioswales to control stormwater runoff, and cites their publication. Number 3 is the energy efficiency. Number 4 is all new development with parking lots should have a plan for 2% of off-street parking, future electric vehicle charging stations, which is good, right? Consistent with the Planning Commission's guidebook specific design for applications in the vicinity of residentially zoned lands. And the subject property should be encumbered by appropriate operational restrictions to adequately protect nearby residences. Limitation of lighting, hours of operation, truck deliveries, garbage pickup, truck island, trash containers.
So we have those details in, right?
Yeah, so I definitely will incorporate some of their comments into there. The fire marshal comments were pretty standard for the projects. Let's see. And then the town engineers, that last comments, there was no issues with the highway department in this.
Carl, any comments?
I just note that Claire rightfully points out, and we work with Claire, I know this is a draft out there.
Mm-hmm.
Comments, there were covenants that were required both by, that we agreed to.
Mm-hmm.
With the neighbors. There's a lot more specificity. I actually submitted draft covenants.
Okay.
So in the final version, I think we should maybe reference those covenants or
Okay.
or flesh them out. But other than that, this is in line with our understanding of this.
Okay, great. I'll put in a separate section with the draft covenants. They've changed slightly since the last iteration, but I'll put that language in there.
Do you have Claire a copy of the last check that wasn't available, the variance?
Yeah, I have.
Variance or something that wasn't being filled out?
Oh, I have it. I have a copy. Yeah, I have it.
Okay.
So I will
It's
give it
not
to you.
on GIS, they didn't upload it, so I don't have it.
Oh, but you submitted it with your application, so I don't know how you did that.
Well, I think we asked them,
He gave you the original.
submitted with the one you had,
Yeah, the one from you.
no?
Jackie Allen is very efficient.
That's probably what happened. It happens a lot.
Exactly.
You
So,
just said sorry, so yes, that's exactly what.
okay, good. So we're all set for next week. We might be at an extension.
What you gave us,
Uh-huh.
page 1, page 3,
Five,
page 5,
seven.
and page 7.
Terrible.
That's why I couldn't find what you were reading.
I don't know what I was doing.
I don't know.
I mean, it was also
Sorry.
familiar that
I
as a
I was
review.
paying attention to you, but now I'm like, all
find
I'm
it.
seeing is, I'm seeing parts of special exception stuff
You
here.
shouldn't let me copy. I'm
And
not
there's-
very good at it.
And there's,
So, are there any downstairs that we can get before we break?
Oh, I'll get you fresh copies, but this is for distribution anyways. We're not acting today, so it's we'll have a discussion for the probably an extension for the next meeting since we wait for the landmarks.
yeah, because there's,
Yeah.
there's no, like, in the staff report, all the things that have to happen.
Right.
There's just parts of special exceptions here.
Yes,
Not
exactly.
even all of them.
I know. Sorry about that. I was my head was popping
And are
off.
they
there.
submitting revised plans to show that this little latticed cross-section is not attached?
Yeah, we can do that.
Carl,
What was that, Jackie?
we need a revised sketch here to show that the cross pergola is not attached. This drawing shows it attached.
Sure. Sure. You want a revised, elevation showing it not attached?
Yeah, we have this document.
Okay. Claire, what's the other website?
Yeah, we missed the cutoff for July. It'll be August 20th.
And then what's the second meeting in August?
Then it'll be the 22nd for a decision on this project. So I'll line you up for that.
That's enough time, 2 days?
Yeah, do you want to give us the extension right now? Till it's August 22nd?
Yes.
Please. So we'll do that for an action.
Okay.
Thank you. So,
No,
extension of the action deadline, if you guys don't mind, So August 22nd.
you want a motion on that?
Yep, please.
No motion.
Okay, motion to extend the action deadline to August 22nd.
Second.
Great.
Motion by Kate, second by Lori, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 5 in favor, 1 absent.
Great, thank you, and I'll get you fresh copies in
Great.
And was
a couple
called
minutes.
on another application?
I think he's
I
done.
think we're done.
Thank you all. I'll see you in an hour.
First 20
Okay.
and
Thank you.
22 are off.
But we have 22, the Noyak
We have-
Club
Signature.
set.
We have a town
Oh,
board
those are
referral.
signatures, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
And-
for the
and
tower
signature.
Yeah.
Consent.
Which would you like to do first?
The town board referral.
Okay. So we are faced with another extension of the moratorium. This one will get us to two. This is the prior extension. I just thought I'd bring in the resolution you guys agreed to last time. Since then, we've had the steering committee was impaneled on March 27th of this year. We've had 3 meetings, one of which was open to the public. We've had an open and transparent dialogue throughout, and we presented our ideas to the public last time. I actually wanted to show you briefly some of the things we've been working on. As you know, the initial concern about lithium-ion batteries was the health risks that they could possibly play out if we had a fire. The original code had BESS throughout, including R60 and R80. So the steering committee has methodically been looking at zoning and eliminating areas. Specifically, we started with the R60. So these were all the areas that could have had a BESS, and then we took the R60 and R80 out.
What does that show?
This shows all the zones where BESS was permitted per code.
So
So this was the striped areas being the residential, and then we had HB, VB, SCB. These were all of the ones where they had potentially could be cited.
Okay, and then.
And then, so the steering committee has been trying to see how can we take away R60 and R80? What does that leave us?
Is that R3?
No,
It was never allowed in R. It was just allowed in R60 and R80. One of the reasoning behind that was the canal site. That was an R80, I believe. So it was thought that maybe those types of sites could have BESS. At any rate, so we removed that. We've been methodically ticking through zonation, and what we've done is we have started to look at these areas, and then we overlay kind of the hosting capacity.
I'm sorry, but what are these areas?
That would be LI 40, LI 200, any of the highway business.
Okay.
University is not one of them.
Sand mines.
Sand mines is an option that we're looking at. So then we got down to we're looking at individual areas from that map you saw. It's kind of blotchy. We're trying to get down, we were looking at parcel level information.
Good.
LI 40 being high on the list, for obvious reasons as potential best sites. The fire marshal recommended a 300-foot barrier, which would be an exclude. Basically, if there was a fire, it takes about 300 feet for the toxic air to dissipate to a level where you wouldn't have to evacuate anyone. So we started with that as, okay, if there's a residence within 300 feet, what happens? Are there any potential sites still? Strangely enough, this one is one of the best for BESS. However, that's a residence, so that would preclude any BESS down in that area. But all the rest of these, there aren't any residences. And what I haven't mentioned is we picked these spots in particular because of something that was provided to us by LIPA. We have a senior vice president from Power Supply who's joining us on these meetings. And he gave us access to what's called a hosting capacity map. And it tells us all the distribution lines and what what infrastructure you could plug into it. So instead of fishing in the dark, we're looking at it, a feasibility.
And what still works for them.
Exactly. If it doesn't work for them, they're not going to go to these other sites. So we don't really need to look at the sites where it's impossible for them to plug in to begin with.
Yeah.
So at any rate,
example of a couple of those sites. It's not something I can see.
yeah, I'm sorry. This is all of our meetings are open to the public. They're all recorded. And we would be happy to have any public input or feedback from you guys as well. George is obviously on the steering committee as well. So he would be perhaps a great way for you to liaise.
I'm going to try, now that I'm retired, I'm going to try to actually attend the meetings here before. It was difficult.
I know it was difficult.
Impossible for me to come.
Yes.
But you know.
I don't see a lot on Zoom.
No. No, it's hard because we've been doing a lot of maps.
Just let's try and schedule a work session, in September, and for you to give us a presentation as to where you know it.
Fantastic.
What I ask in this resolution.
Yes,
is
let's
a
get.
date. A date, there's no date.
Yeah, so you made the extension until.
From to.
Right, okay, of course. So that would be June 23rd.
From June 23, 2024.
Right.
To.
2/13/25 is.
To 2/13/2025.
Yes.
That's what, 8 months?
It's 6 months, but
It's a
somehow
6
because of a notification of the Suffolk County Planning Commission, there's some lag. It seems to go up. It's more than 6 because of notification parameters.
And this has been discussed with the town board?
Yes,
February
this
date
was.
is sticking in my head.
Yes, it went to the town board, and that's.
They have a public hearing scheduled for the 23rd of June.
Right.
Okay, so.
And it did pass the Suffolk County Planning Commission yesterday. So.
So could I have a motion to approve the extension of the moratorium by Tom?
June.
Second by
Sorry.
George, all in
July.
favor. Opposed, abstentions, 5 in favor, 1 absent.
Can I just make a clarifying? So is it July 23rd, 2024 or June
It's
23rd,
2024.
But the
Yeah.
hearing before the town board, I misspoke, the hearing before the town board for,
The extension?
the exemption, and I think, did the exemption or the extension went, there's an exemption on for the 23rd, sorry.
Right, I'm confusing
bad.
it too as
Yeah.
well. I will get the dates
Yeah, yeah.
right. I believe, this was accepted on 6/25, June 25th, the town board.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
it's from June 25th, 2024
And then,
to 2/13,
yes.
2025.
Okay,
Okay,
makes
great,
sense.
thank you.
Okay.
and we have a meeting July 16th from 2 to 3. All are well, not welcome in-house, but you can watch it through CTV.
July when?
July 16th, 2,
That would be
Yeah.
Tuesday.
I believe so.
And then you'll give us an update with your maps and everything in the fall.
Absolutely.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, what I find interesting is it's just a couple of name parcels, like West Montauk Highway. You know, just, that's helpful rather than just a map.
Absolutely, yeah, we're trying to actually distill it down to parcel level where we can say, these are ones that are
That are in this
potential
kind of-
sites that we're
this kind of
considering.
zoning
Yep.
and here where they are.
That's what I
Yes,
was
as
looking
opposed
for
to the maps.
From the very beginning.
Okay,
And explaining the methodology around the 300 feet
Yes.
air dissipation,
Yes.
because air is so variable depending on wind direction and speed and everything.
absolutely.
You know, I think
That's
that
why
would
we
be
did it
important.
around.
But explaining the methodology for
Okay.
determining 300 feet
Yes,
is
it's
important
critical.
piece.
I will do that, and, yep.
Okay. So do you want to go into the sign plans, acknowledging the Maya Golf Club?
What,
Did we
Yeah.
vote
Did you vote to
approve
refer,
this
make your
resolution?
referrals?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. Okay.
Yeah,
Yep,
we
we just
voted.
continued the conversation.
You made it, then I asked him, that we-
Sign plans, I'm acknowledging 22 Noyak Golf Club, Clubhouse Edition, 23 Rothman, 24 Head Start.
I don't think Rothman, I think it was an extension.
Yes.
I don't think he gave you the plans for signature. I don't see them.
we just had a Rothman extension,
Yeah.
So there's no plans.
So
There was no
I,
plans for signature.
this, on the agenda, I didn't have any signed plans,
You
so.
did, Noyak walked up at the end, the last time.
Okay, so we're acknowledging
And this is,
the
this
two
is,
sign.
yeah, this is a walk-on for Head Start.
Right, for Head Start
I will,
and
I will sign it now.
the Noyak Golf Club. Okay,
Okay.
that's it.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn by George, second by Tom, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 5 in favor, 1 absent. We are adjourned.